6-8-1-1. If this is correct, press 1. There are 23 participants in the conference. Please announce yourself.
Maria.
Remember that name.
Okay.
Mayor Sandler. City Council meeting of September 15, 2020 has come to order. Can you please stand up for Pledge of Allegiance? Chief Soria, would you lead us in Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with freedom and justice for all. Please remain standing for the first responders and military members. Please be seated.
Because it was based on all of us living. But now that we don't have let's understand each other. I'm giving you a gift. I don't want to get into what happened with the police when they came. I'm not to get into that.
Okay, just a reminder to everybody.
You don't want me to get into that either. Yes. So
just a reminder to everybody, please put your mic on mute.
You deal with all these problems yourself. We don't have courts for unmarried. However, it does appear that he's not paying any child support now, and he's not taking the children 50% of the time, which is your agreement. You're going to go back to court in March. He's going to tell the court there is already an order in place where he has been ordered to pay
Roll call.
the rent.
Councilmember Baptista.
How much is the rent a month?
Present. Councilmember Aguilar.
Present.
Councilmember King.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia.
Present.
Mayor Summer.
Present.
For the record, council members, Mayor Pro Tem, and the mayor are in attendance.
Thank you. Closed session announcement. Mr. Sanchez, will you give us a report on the closed session, please?
And Mayor, I know that the council had evaluations for both the city manager and the city attorney on tonight's closed session. And the report out pursuant to the council is that both the city manager and the city attorney are doing good jobs and are doing a good job, and the evaluations are concluded.
Thank you. There are no other closed session announcements. Changes to the agenda? Any changes, council? Staff, any changes at this time?
2 items. Number 7.
Okay, I'm sorry, what would you have to do?
I'd like to pull that for further discussion. Or just
Sure. Okay, item number 7 is pulled. Any other changes, council? If not, then we'll go to proclamation declaring September 6, 2020 as the Swansea Calara Day. I will read the proclamation to the record. Whereas Swansea Calara was a highly respected leader within the Sikh community and beyond, and was a strong advocate for democratic human rights in all people. And whereas Swansea Calara documented human rights abuses and fought for the dignity of all that had their community trampled by the Indian government, and Whereas the city of Livingston is proud of its Sikh community and is home to broad service organizations such as Guru Nanak Sikh Mission, Gurdwara Livingston, and Jakarta movement that are committed to social justice for all. And whereas September 6th is recognized as Sikh and human rights supporters across the world as a date of kidnapping and murder of Swansea College in 1995. Now, therefore, be resolved, I, Gopal Sharma, Mayor of the City of Livingston, on behalf of the City of Livingston, do recognize September 6, 2020 as the Swansea College Day, encourage all Californians to afford the opportunity to better understand and recognize and appreciate the rich history of Sikh Americans. Thank you. And we'll move on to announcements and reports. We'll start out
Can we
with
make a comment?
Supervisor Espinoza. Who needs a comment? Go first.
This is Namdeep Singh. I just wanted to just issue a quick comment about the mentioned proclamation.
Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you to the City Council and Mayor of the City of Livingston on behalf of the Jakarta movement and the Sikh community in Livingston. You know, this for the city to recognize this day goes beyond just this particular day. It's really an issue of here you have a person that displayed such courage, such fearlessness, that it really is a lesson and a model for us all. You know, in today's day where very few people are willing to speak truth to power, just one thing Khalida was one of those remarkable individuals that despite knowing that telling the truth would have him killed, he was able to speak on the human rights violations in the United States, Canada, and even the UK. On behalf, again, of the Sikh community in Livingston, of the Sikh community beyond, and even especially the Jakarta movement, I just want to appreciate Councilmember Aguiar for working with us, Councilmember Kang, Councilmember Baptista Soto, Councilmember Garcia, and of course Mayor Samra, as well as City Manager Ramirez for making this happen. We truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Supervisor?
Yeah, hi. May I say a couple words? Mandeep.
Hey.
We could barely hear you.
Okay, let me go.
Did somebody make a request to speak?
ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਸੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਹਨੇਰੇ ਨੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਵਿਖਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਧਰਤੀ ਤੇ ਪੈਰ ਪਾਇਆ ਪਰ ਦੂਰ ਇੱਕ ਦੀਪਕ ਨੇ ਸਿਰ ਚੁੱਕਿਆ ਉਸਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਮੈਂ ਹਨੇਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਚੈਲੰਜ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੋਰ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਣ ਦਿਆਂਗਾ ਉਸ ਦੀਪਕ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਹੋਰ ਦੀਪਕ ਵੀ ਉੱਠੇ ਤੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਹੈਰਾਨ ਰਹਿ ਗਈ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਦੀਪਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਜਗਾਤੀ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਹਨੇਰਾ ਆਇਆ ਆ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਦੀਪਕ ਅਣਖੀਲਾ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਜਗਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਆ ਤੇ ਨਾਲੇ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮੂਵਮੈਂਟ ਸੀਗੀ ਮਨੁੱਖਤਾ ਦੀ ਅਧਿਕਾਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਪਰਮਜੀਤ ਕੌਰ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਨਵਕਿਰਨ ਕੌਰ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਤੇ ਜਨਮੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਨੇ ਕੰਟੀਨਿਊ ਕੀਤੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵਾਈਫ ਪਰਮਜੀਤ ਕੌਰ ਖਾਲੜਾ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਇਹ ਮਾਨਵਤਾ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ ਇਹ ਹਿਊਮੈਨਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਆ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦਾ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪ ਦੀ ਕੁਰਬਾਨੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ ਪਰ ਸੱਚ ਤੇ ਖੜਨਾ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਖਾਲੜਾ said that there was a darkness over the world and far away this one little lamp lit up and said, I'm going to challenge the darkness. If in anything else, at least around me, I will establish light. And after seeing that lamp, these other lamps lit up, and the world was shocked that all these little lamps lit up the world. And it was just Jaswant Singh Khalada's family, Paramjit Kaur Khalada, Navkiran Kaur Khalada, Janmeet Singh Khalada, that kept this movement alive. This is his wife, Paramjit Kaur Khalada, said, this is an issue of humanity. This is our duty as Sikhs. Even if we have to give our lives, we will stand for the truth. So with that, I would like to thank the City of Livingston I would like to congratulate the City of Livingston for recognizing this day as September 6, 2020 as Just One Thing Colorado Day. And congratulations to all Sikhs worldwide and all human rights supporters that we all will stand up and challenge the darkness and be the light that lights up the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, did you state your name, please? Okay, I guess. Okay, we'll have to find out on call later. Anybody else want to make a comment on this item? Okay, this item is now closed to the public. Supervisor?
Okay, good evening, Council. We had a board meeting this morning, and we had a COVID update, and one of the things that Becky from the Public Health Director advised was that we had plus funds. Of course, everybody knows that it was in the paper that the employees, the Livingston plant, which is one of the buildings, the biggest plant over there, inside Fossil Farms, was shut down, and all the employees had to test twice in 7 days before they could go back to work. And now that they're doing it the same thing for the other buildings, they have to test twice before they can go back in because I was getting calls saying that some employees were transferred to other buildings, and or that some employees came back and started work without having a second negative. So I asked the question to them to say, as far as they know, that the Fossil Farms follow the protocol that they were in the list of protocols that they were advised to, and so that's why they were allowed to open before the 14 days. So, and also going on to my committee appointments, I have two positions, vacancies on the behavioral health board. If anybody in District 1 would like to apply, you can be on the behavioral health board. And I had two people that resigned, and so you're welcome to apply and just give me a call, and then I'll be glad to give you an application. There's one vacancy on the Area Agency on Aging. The Area Agency on Aging deals with senior citizens, the meals program, anything to do with the seniors. And so if you're over the age of 60, let me know if you want to apply and learn more how you can help the seniors. I'll be glad to appoint you. I have two vacancies on the Library Advisory Board. On all the libraries in the county, there's an advisory committee, and there's two vacancies there as well. And I just want to say that if you go outside, please wear a mask. With harvest going on right now, a lot of pollution is going on, and also with the fires. So as you've seen, the air is very unhealthy. So for the safety of you and everybody else, please wear a mask. As well as with the pandemic going on. And also, I want to end this with my appreciation for all the firefighters in California fighting the fires, and the rest of the firefighters, and also public safety. That everybody's risking their lives to protect us. So thank the firefighter or public safety officer when you see one. So thank you. Other than that, that's all I have right now. Do you have any questions?
Council, any questions for Supervisor Espinoza? Does the public have any questions?
Thank you.
Staff announcements and reports, Chief Sawyer?
Does the public have any questions?
I do.
Hello, this is Gabriel Salazar.
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me?
Who's this?
This is Gabriel Salazar. Can you hear me?
Are you making a citizen comment, or you have a question for Supervisor?
Yes, I have a question for the supervisor.
Hold on, he's coming up to the tab.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir, and state your name.
Yes, Gabriel Salazar. My question is, in the supervisor's meeting this morning, someone made a comment about the Merced County having more than one budget meeting, like a workshop. I know Livingston had 3. Is there a way that Merced County can have more budget workshops or sessions before they adopt the budget? That's my question. Thank you.
Well, as far as I know, the budget agenda and the budget for approval is already for the second meeting of the next meeting on the 29th of this month. So I don't think there should be another budget meeting before then. And that's going to be the only meeting to approve the budget. Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Supervisor Espinoza? Seeing no one, Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the public. I just want to kind of go over on August 30th, we had a shooting over near the Mikasa restaurant, and Gina was in the parking lot. I just want to kind of give you an update. You can actually go to the next slide. Basically, hours of investigation, we served a couple of warrants after basically started paying who actually took over the investigation right at the beginning of the onset of the shooting that day, and then it was turned over to the actual investigative sergeant, who's Sergeant Ramirez. But the really bottom line was when it was turned over, it was given to Detective Barkus and Coleman, and they pretty much really ran with it. What they ended up doing is, with the assistance of Turlock PD SWAT and Modesto PD SWAT, they arrested 2 individuals, both 19 and 20 years of age, out of Turlock for the shooting. Like I said, they as soon as they got a hold of it the next day, they just basically ran with it until these individuals were caught. If you can go to the next slide, please. Actually, up in the top left corner is in Turlock, where the Turlock Police Department SWAT team was actually serving the first search warrant where the 2 individuals were caught. And you can see there, and we believe that were actually the weapons used that night. These guys out here are not using your typical handguns, which one of them is, but the other one's an assault rifle, military type rifle, and used by law enforcement as well. This was actually taken in the search warrant. And again, I want to commend both Officers Coleman, or Detectives Coleman and Barkus, for running with this and basically doing everything they could to get these individuals identified and put behind bars where they belong. We actually have 2 outstanding people that we have identified. They're not in custody yet, but hopefully we will get them soon and put them where they belong as well. I just want to kind of send a message out to most of, not all of them, but a lot of the shootings that we've been having have been by individuals that have been coming into town and not by the citizens of Livingston. The police department doesn't care where you're from. We're going to go wherever we need to go and make sure that if you're going to do things like this in our city, we're going to do everything we can to basically protect our citizens and put these individuals behind bars. And again, we went to Turlock and Modesto to serve these warrants, and we'll do what it takes. And just because we are a small town does not mean that we are not capable of handling the situations and going where we need to go. And again, I was going to commend the team effort with all the officers involved in getting these people put behind bars where they belong. I want to kind of go over, I know there was a question asked about reserve, and I do have basically what the cost would be if we do hire reserves. I know that came up as to hiring part-time reserves. If we actually went to reserve 24 hours a week, it would, a yearly cost would be about $72,000, and actually outfitting them for the stream. The other thing is that with that, I kind of have, I don't want to kind of backstep, but right now I do have 3 officers that are actively looking at leading the department. they are in backgrounds or either been given conditional offers of employment. So I can probably see at least 2 of them probably leaving within the next 2 months. So again, this is what has happened in the past. When I was a captain, we start getting work on reserves, and then now we have to fill in the officers' positions. So right now we're actively recruiting for reserve and police officers. So depending on what happens and what directions, we'll be ready to make sure that we get these people in, and with try not to be down too many guys for that long of time. So hopefully we'll find out within the next few weeks what's going to happen, and it'll kind of give us a direction which way we're going to go at the police department, whether they're going to be full-time or reserves. But again, I won't know until they actually get an offer to actually leave and give me their 2-week notice. Again, as for the shootings going back, I know one of the things that was brought up as to what we're doing, we continue to do active patrols, extra patrols in the areas that we have had the shootings. One of the things that we're doing is and again, it's nothing to the business owner at Mikasa, but they've been having large crowds. So we've been actively going over there and making sure that everything has been, pretty quiet. Nobody's getting too rowdy, too drunk, or anything like that. So that's one of the things that we're doing. Some of the other areas that we have had shootings at, we are trying to get in there as much as possible, depending on what else is going on at the time. But again, we're going to do as much as possible to make sure that we have no more of these. I can't, say for sure that it won't happen again, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the citizens here can basically walk around the city without having the fear of having a shooting again and then being mixed up in it. So, and again, one other thing I forgot is that I want to thank all the citizens that basically got involved last week. We had an elderly gentleman lost last week that had Alzheimer's, and he got lost, and basically we actually found him way out in the county, and we went to Facebook right away. We put it out also on our through the Silver Alert, through the High Patrol, and the overwhelming response from the citizens and the people that actually came were actually out looking for this individual. I want to thank everyone that actually went out there and did that. Actually, one of the citizens actually spotted him out in the county and called into Sergeant Kane, who was actually working the fire up in North Fork. He called me and said, "Hey, we think he might be out in the county," which we actually responded out there, and that's where he was, heading out towards the wind out in the county. And thank God we found him. He might have been a little bit dehydrated, but other than that, he's fine. And again, I want to thank the citizens for stepping up, getting out there and looking for him and helping us out. So that's really all I have. And do you have any questions?
Council, any questions of Tutorial?
I have a couple questions with Councilmember Aguilar. Thank you for getting that information back to us regarding the reserves. I guess the question is for you and the city manager. Having this information now, what's the feasibility, what's the possibility of, or an estimate of how soon this could be a possibility? I know obviously you probably have to get together and work on information, especially to prepare or be ready in case the other 2 officers leave and that situation, obviously that's something that you guys would probably work together in that, but I'll be interested to know if that's a possibility and how soon it could be. Do we have to wait until the mid-year review of the budget, or, just if you guys can get back to us. And in regards to those efforts regarding the arrest and the shooting, good job, Chief, and your officers and everybody involved. Good job. I know you guys are out there and doing the best you can.
Thank you, Councilmember Aguilar. As it relates to after receiving council direction, that's why we wanted to provide that information regarding the reserves and the costs associated with the reserves and the volunteers at this council meeting. So in terms of implementation, we want to do this fairly quickly, so that we want to bring it, back before council. We don't have to wait until the mid-year budget review, because I know that this is a priority from you and the direction from council. So now that you know the dollar amount, know kind of the situation that's happening within our department, our PD department, we can basically take it to the next level, and that is, doing a budgetary amendment, and we can work with staff to do that upon your direction.
Thank you. Any council, is there anybody else? Council? If not, does the public have any questions for Chief? Thank you, Chief. Engineering, anything to report?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. Just a quick update on some of the projects that are ongoing. The more visible ones, obviously, are the Livingston Parkway and recently the slurry project. The slurry project, the bulk of the work was done yesterday and today, so that's when that was placed on the streets. There's still some striping and things of that nature. It'll take a little while after securing the material chairs. On the Livingston Parkway, I'm sure you noticed the K-rail has been removed. The striping is ongoing. It's not complete. That part is still boomed off, but it already looks like the lane is there. So that's the two big visible projects. The TCP plant at Well 16 is on schedule, and it's also ongoing just fine. And I'll be back to answer any questions.
Councilors, any questions?
So Mario, our engineering staff had communicated something to me this week that I'd like to just share with council, and and I hate to be really harsh on Caltrans, but unfortunately, our experience with Caltrans over the year has not been very pleasant. So as it relates to the Winton Parkway project, the project itself was delayed about 9 days because some of the Caltrans engineers really didn't do their homework. So we're hoping that we do not get charged for that delay, that 9-day delay. So staff's going to work hard to push against that, and we wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up as it relates to that. The other issue related to Caltrans is you've probably seen this new wall that's being erected on Campbell. It would have been really nice if they would have, gave us a courtesy call, let us know what was going on. They just built that wall, and we've had some residents have called and said, hey, you know what, we don't really like the aesthetics of the wall. We think it's going to be graffitied. Why did they build it? Those kind of things. So we will be reaching out to Caltrans and communicating some of these things to them. Thank you.
Council, any questions? Supervisor, go ahead, please.
My understanding was that the Winter Parkway was going to be paid for. I asked that question a month ago, and it's still going to be paid for? Okay, that's what we're putting in the last end already. Yeah, it's most split into 2 phases. So this will take the bottleneck off. That one will be the paving. And that make it easier to go through Caltrans, because most of the paving is paving, so we don't have to go through all the process of submitting plans. So it was easier to separate. Okay, actually, that. All right, thank you.
In addition to that, Supervisor, we will be doing it in quadrants. So we'll take that intersection and do it in quadrants to try to minimize any impacts to the businesses in that area.
Challenge is going to be traffic control. We do have like city manager. Well, it's not as busy as a normal year, but hopefully we can also. But thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions for engineering?
This is Councilmember Aguilar. I just had same questions regarding the fence, but you gave us an update, and thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Public Works?
Good evening, Council, members of the public. I do have a presentation.
Hi, this is Councilmember King. I got a question for the city manager. Can you guys hear me?
Councilmember King, what's the question?
Yes. What do you call? You know how they did the slurry on Briarwood and F Street? Well, the stop sign, the lines on the road have been covered with the slurry, and just today, within 5 minutes, I seen 3 cars just run the stop sign. Is there anything? Can we have like a temporary, like a flashing stop light, or just to till we paint the stop lights, the street lights, or signs, or anything?
Hey, Councilmember King, this is Anthony. Yes, we'll direct staff to put up some temporary signage.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Well, I do have a presentation that Councilmember Kang requested. I don't know if today's a good day to present that.
Let me ask Councilmember Kang. We have a presentation that you requested. I don't know if you can see it at home. Do you wish to have it given now or at another date?
No, it's okay. Go for it.
Okay, go ahead.
Monica, do you have the, okay, so I'll just direct you. Okay, so if you could follow along, this presentation is in regards to Councilmember King's request for an analysis if we were to turn off the irrigation to our park basins. So the first slide is King Park Basin. It cost the city $5,500 to irrigate the park basin for 1 year. By turning off the irrigation to the basin, there could be a 90% cost savings, total cost savings of $4,900. The area boxing green would be turned off. I would recommend, if council did go this route, that we keep the trees alive. Can we shut off a couple of the lights there? Supervisor, please. You can see the trees around the perimeter. We'd want to run irrigation, a drip line, to keep those trees alive, because you can grow grass again, but trees are huge assets. We would want to keep those alive. There would be an increased cost in chemical applications. You go to the next slide, Monica. There's Joseph Gallo Park Basin. It costs the city $27,614 to irrigate this park for 1 year. By turning off irrigation to the basin, again, that would be within the green box. The city would see a 20% cost savings. And that cost savings in a year comes out to $5,522. Again, we would stop irrigating within the green box and let that grass die off. Next slide, Monica, please. Here's Don Myers Park Basin. Again, it costs the city $7,861 to irrigate this park for 1 year. By turning off irrigation to the basin, there would be a savings of 25%, total savings of over $1,900. Again, we would shut off irrigation within the green box costing area. Next slide. Here's our Killian Park Basin footprint. It costs $19,107 to irrigate our Killian Park for 1 year. Turning off irrigation to the basin, there would be a cost savings of about 30%. Total cost savings here would be $5,732 for 1 year. Next slide. Reddick Warden Basin, 7,300 to irrigate the park for 1 year. Turning off irrigation to the basin, again, within the green box. Almost most of this park, there would be a cost savings of 50%. Total savings for the year would be $4,386. Again, at all these parks, we would want to keep all these trees alive still around the perimeter. So, recommendation if council to move forward with it. Next slide, please. Max Foster Basin costs $27,675 to irrigate this park for the year. Turning off irrigation to the basin, that's the green box area on the right, where the encompasses all our playing fields. There would be a 50% savings there, $13,837. Next slide. To just sum it up, I did provide a Dwight storm basin picture. So this is what a storm drain basin looks like. Picture on your right. So to sum it up, the total savings for all our basins, if we were to stop off irrigation on the slides that I showed you, there'll be a total savings of $36,409 for the year. Next slide, please. Okay, a couple things to go over. We're using general fund money to pay the water enterprise fund. So there would be a monetary savings in the general fund account, but we would be decreasing revenue in the water fund. There would be a slight decrease in our water system peak demand. There would be an increase in chemical application that the general fund would be responsible for. Our Kelly and Max Foster will be irrigating with surface water from MID in the near future. So there will be a significant cost savings notice there. You can go back one slide. Wrong way. That's me before top. So the our Kelly and Max Foster, you can see they're highlighted in red. These are where the surface water project will be taking place. As you can see, that's where we use most of our water for irrigation. So after those two projects are completed, I mean, that total savings is going to drop to like $26,000 for the year because we're going to be using a lot less potable water, more surface water after those two surface water projects are completed. Next slide. So there will be an increase in chemical application, possibly additional maintenance, depending on what route we go, if council does want to move forward with this. There may need to be fences put up. If we want to reduce chemical application, we're going to need to keep the vegetation down. So if that happens, we're going to have to put some fences up, and I did put some numbers up for contractors. So contractor charges anywhere from $2,000 to $2,800 per 100 foot of fence. So if we were to put a fence up at theme park, that would cost us $18,600, and just a GALLO would cost us $15,000. Just for your information. Next slide. Now, at the end of the presentation, be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, council, any questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Go ahead.
Hey, sir, it's Raul Garcia, by the way. Is there any update on the sidewalk out here at the Max Foster complex? You know, from the grant that we received?
Yeah, I have Mario touch bases on that. Or can you give a quick update on our, where we're at on our CBD project or the CMAX project? We're asking for an update on the project that, on DWIGHT and, Walnut, CMAX project. Just the sidewalk.
Okay. Yeah, that is programmed, and that, I believe, was programmed for fiscal year 21-22. That's the federal fiscal year that starts in October. I would have to verify that, but that is a bill, that's right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Councilman, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
I'm sorry, who is it?
Yeah, this is Robert.
No, it's not up for the public this year. Okay, hold on, Robert. Okay, hold on. Council, any other questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to thank Public Works for all the work that they did on Friday to get the downtown flags up. Also, in the Court Park area, the tree is a little bit overgrown to see some of the banners that are put up. So I'm not asking for this to be done right away. I'm just saying that it's not visible from the street. So there are other banners coming. So if there might be another time when Public Works can trim the tree down, that would be perfect.
Council, any other questions?
This is Councilmember Aguilar. I have a couple questions. So basically, based on your presentation and analysis, that's the full cost of irrigating those areas that you pointed out, correct? Obviously, if we don't irrigate them, they're going to dry out. Probably in the summer months.
It's not going to completely dry out. If you could go back to Joseph GALLO Basin, Monica, please. Like one of the first slides, I think. Second slide. So if you look at the basins, the way these basins are engineered is we are still going to be irrigating around the perimeter and most of the park. That water is still going to... You like that picture, huh? The water is still going to make its way to the lowest part of that park, which is the basin. So we're still going to be battling vegetation growth throughout spring, summer, because the way it's designed. We're still going to be irrigating. That water is still going to be seeping and making its way down. So that's why I'm saying there's going to be increased cost in chemical application or mechanical sifting to try to keep that vegetation suppressed.
But so your recommendation is to go ahead and do it,
my recommendation would it wouldn't be cost effective to continue with it to stop irrigation within those zones. It's not cost effective at this time because of the increased maintenance and chemical cost for it.
Okay. And then in the future, obviously, we're trying to use MID to irrigate those, so that'll be a cost saving for the city, correct?
We're already going to notice that once we complete that surface water project, which will be taking place in 2021, we're going to be using a lot less potable water and more MID surface water, which is going to be significant. And those are our two biggest water users for both parks. And I think we have opportunities in the future to apply for grants through OWIM, DWR, and we'll continue to try to put the other parks on surface water as well.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on the council?
Yes.
Councilmember King? Go ahead, please.
Well, after listening to Anthony's question, first of all, I want to say thank you for doing that extra work. I don't think the cost is not enough where we should let the parks die. I think we should just leave it the way it was before.
Okay. Anything else, Councilman McKay?
No, that'd be it.
Yeah, well, for me, I have, what I was going to comment before you did was we have spent a considerable amount of money bringing Thing Park into the park that it is right now. It used to be a storm drain basin with a fence around it. We had nothing but complaints, squirrel, mice, everything, and even the Nito Aguilar Park was a storm drain basin. We spent considerable amount of money turning it into a park. To revert to it for a small amount of money doesn't make sense. There's the aesthetic value of a green park as opposed to a fence with a dead grass. I don't think we should ever talk about this again. Thank you very much. I will now open this to the public. Does anybody from the public want to make a comment on this presentation? Please state your name and address if you, somebody wanted to say something. Go ahead.
No, my question was answered with Councilmember Aguilar's question. It was just a time frame regarding the project for Kaling and Max Foss complex. So I'm good.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who was this? I didn't get your name.
This was Robert. It was Robert. I just had a question. It was it got answered at the end.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Okay, anybody else from the public at this time?
This is Jairo Aguilar.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree with you. I think, just keeping the parks nice, it kind of keeps the aesthetic and the neighborhood and all the cost that it did cost to build them. And now, once we let it dry to bring them back up and look green. And then, even the value of the house, I think it makes it desirable because it's so nice and green. So I agree with you. I think they should stay green.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public? If not, the presentation part is now closed. Anthony, you have anything else to present?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, finance, anything to report? Okay, planning?
Nothing from planning, sir.
Thank you. City manager?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Council, and the public, I do have a few items. One is I just wanted to report out that we were very happy to inform Council that we received a much needed and anticipated CDBG grant for a little over $3 million. Basically, that money is going to address a lot of the issues that we have in that quadrant of town between F and D, 7th and 8th, and in that vicinity. So basically what this money is going to do is going to put in a sewer line where that it's not going to go through people's property. It's going to be in the city right away. And so we're going to have to configure all that. And hopefully we get a great contractor like we've had in the past and we don't have no issues. And so that's going to allow for the development of all those other parcels that currently do not have, they're not built out. So that's going to be great. That's going to be a lot of development and infill projects that's going to happen there. The other, I just want to elaborate a little bit further on the wall, the CME wall off of Campbell. Again, that wall was constructed. I'm sure it had to do with noise mitigation with Caltrans. Unfortunately, Caltrans doesn't have to come to the city for any permits to actually build that. That's their right of way. But I do want to talk to them so that at least we get, that some more communication so that we are able to educate the public and be able to communicate, those kind of projects. As you all know, there's going to be the objective of Highway 99 coming through Livingston to have 6 lanes, and currently they're working on the northbound, and so hopefully we get some funding to do the southbound. The other item I wanted to talk about was we also have some funding that we're going after to address some alley improvements in town. So that's moving ahead. And And then also in the very, very near future, more than likely the next meeting or the meeting after that, we're looking for an amendment to the contract for WC3. WC3 is the firm who does all of our building and inspections, and so that'll be coming before council. And that's all I have to report at this time, unless you have any questions.
Council, any questions of City Manager? Public, any questions? You have one more comment? Go ahead, do something.
This is Anthony Public Works. I did forget one thing I wanted to share with the public and with council. You may have noticed that our street sweeper hasn't been in operation. It's been down for the last 2 weeks because we had a water pump failure and a bracket failure on our vacuum system. We do have the parts in now, and we did start sweeping today, so we'll be hitting it pretty hard this week and next week to try to catch up. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Ramirez? Okay. Councilmember announcements and reports. Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes, thank you. I touched base with our city manager. I've organized a safety fair in the past with the awesome assistance of the recreation department. The goal for this year's safety fair is to do a drive-through kind of safety fair where people will be able to pick up some resources and information. I know we have some face coverings. Jose, still have those available? City Manager, Jose?
Yeah, Councilmember Aguilar. We actually have several face masks we have in our possession.
Perfect. So we'll be utilizing those. Trying to create some partnerships where maybe some hand sanitizer will be available to donate. So I want to call out any other nonprofits, organizations, or any groups that would want to participate to reach out to me, and we can plan this out. I'm hoping that also the police department could participate with maybe some information in general. And then, so it's in the beginning stages of planning, and I'm hoping to get it, going as soon as possible, and report back a date of where we're going to have it, when we're going to have it. Also, I've been working, participated in a school site council meeting that I'm part of for the Livingston School District. And then we're assisting them with promoting their free meals. There's been a lack of understanding or people being knowing where to get the free meals from the school district. And I appreciate Jose working with us and Ariana Ramirez, which is the parent liaison for the school district, and promoting that information. So I know, Jose, I don't know if you want to elaborate regarding that and the last information we received from them.
Yes, so we definitely we continuously work with we have a great partnership with us. In this particular moment, we received the information related to the event, the flyers in the utility bills in order to get residents in town. Also through our social assist and help, we're more than happy to do that for Livingston Unified School District.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a show of a community getting together and helping each other out. Obviously, we work together with nonprofits, and this is just an example of working with the school district and promoting a benefit for our community. So I appreciate the collaboration between the school and myself and Jose. Thank you once again. That is it.
Councilmember Kang, anything to report?
Nope, nothing right now.
Okay. Councilwoman Batista?
I just want to thank Councilmember Aguilar for trying to coordinate, for proceeding to coordinate a health fair. And I'm already going to speak on behalf of where I stand with community outreach and meeting. If you decide on a date, I might be able to get that through with the VFW so that my part with community outreach can work with you on that project. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
And just want to throw this out there, when I said VFW, we also have our Thursday night. We've had a lot of people in the community come out and help support our local VFW post, 8327. There is a dinner September 24th. So again, I just want to promote that, and thank you for being supportive of the VFW's effort. Just one thing for the city manager, on my way up to Chambers, I noticed that there is a sign for employee quarter of employee of the month of the quarter. Can you let us know, because I'd like to
Sure. Definitely. Thank you. So we, in order to recognize our employees for outstanding work and things that they do for our community and for others in our city departments, for every quarter, that is, there's a nomination process, and for this quarter, the person who was selected as the employee of the quarter was our Executive Secretary, Monica Cisneros. So we congratulate her for doing so.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, anything to report?
I don't have anything to report at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And for me, as Supervisor Espinoza said earlier regarding Foster Farms, there was a lot of work that the Merced County Health Department, with the assistance of Supervisor Espinoza and myself, we worked very hard to make sure that the employees were taken care of. It was where it was just not going the right way it should have been for the workers. Workers were calling, they were scared, they were concerned for the family members. People were getting sick. There were some family members dying. So I want to thank the Merced County Health Department. They did step up, Supervisor Espinoza. In the end, Foster Farms was shut down for 6 days. They had to, with the agreement, they tested every single employee, full-time employees twice. The ones that were negative were allowed to go back to work. The ones that were positive, obviously, were not. They also did a deep cleaning of the entire facility. They put out outdoor break rooms. And then also, they will also be testing 25% of the employees every week. So just about every employee will get retested. Any particular building that 3 people show as positive tests, the whole building has to be tested. There can be a lot of the protocols that come in. In the end, it was a tough start from everybody. Foster Farms, in the end, realized, and they came in and finally agreed to meet with the health director. And for them, even though it was late, I would like to thank them for finally making the right decision. And I hope that they will continue to work with the county health and their employees to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Before they opened, I did get a chance to tour the plant. I know the facility. I've seen it before. I know Supervisor Espinoza. I've seen it many times. In the end, they finally made some significant changes to where the employees do feel better. Originally, when I got 100+ calls, I did also get some calls and saying now that they feel a lot safer, a lot better. and they also don't want the county help, and they are asking us to make sure that they stay in full compliance. So I think that's the good news of it. And overall, I just want to, and can't emphasize enough to all the Livingstonians in Merced County.
I do want to continue to emphasize to the employees, not the Livingston and Merced County residents and nearby, even though the case count is going to come down, please don't laugh. This is still serious stuff. People that do get sick, the ones that do get sick, and they get sick a lot, it's not pretty. I know we keep saying about face masks, and I keep telling everybody, if you think it's hard breathing through a mask, try a ventilator. It's not hard. So, in the end, just wanted to give that report out. And that's all I have now. So then now we move on to a public hearing. This is a public hearing resolution approving the application for funding and the execution of a grant agreement and any amendments thereof for 2020 government block grant. And then let's see. This is a mess. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem. I would like to make a comment before we do the public hearing, if I get a chance.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead. The mayor's having technical difficulties right now.
Copy that. Yeah, I'd just like to see if I can make a motion to continue our closed sessions to the public until we get a hold or control of this this virus of the COVID-19. So that's what I have.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry. I just got back. Can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, I'll see if I can make a motion to continue our closed sessions to the general public due to the COVID-19 outbreak, which is still pretty high in Merced County.
Mayor, if I may, I think that the request is to make a motion. However, it's not an item on the agenda, but I think that the request from the Mayor Pro Tem is to continue having the meetings closed to the public during this the pandemic and given the governor's order.
Okay.
Thank you, sir, for that
And I
clarification.
think also he said closed session, but I misunderstood.
I mean,
my apologies, sir. What I will do, and as I said before, if we're asking other businesses to close to the public because of COVID, we should also hold ourselves to the same standard. So I agree with you that until a certain threshold, we should close off a general meeting to the public. Of course, elected officials and staff can attend, and so I agree with you. And so I'll propose that it's a decision. It's not a motion. It's a decision the Mayor Pro Tem and I are making in saying that I agree with them to close for these two meetings, and we'll take it from there. Is that agreeable, Mayor Pro Tem?
Do the other council members have anything else to say about it? We give them a chance to speak on it.
Of course I do.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying if we're implementing all the protocols and trying to mitigate all the COVID precautions, and people are wearing face masks, we've got seating out here, 6 feet or even more, that those that want to attend the meeting should have the opportunity. And if that's what we're saying in the end, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, just like we've gone out to Foster Farms, made sure that they're doing what they're doing, sanitizing, all our businesses are doing that, they're remaining open. So what is your message that you're actually trying to say? Are we want to set an example, but we're going to set this example, like Mayor Pro Tem has requested. Because we have another example of allowing our public to come into a council session to participate in a physical sense where we will practice what we've been told, because other businesses, other entities are remaining open.
If you're asking me the question, I just feel that we should take in consideration, I mean, the pandemic, where it's going, and I mean, just for the safety of the general public, to bring them in our council chambers, I just say that's, I mean, it's common sense right now.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may remind the council, the item is not on the agenda. I think that this is more for discussion, I believe, as far as just between you, and I know that it just got brought up because it's something that we've been doing, and I know, Mayor, you as mayor, as proceeding over the meetings, I know that that's something that you've done in the past. If the council would like to have a discussion about it, it could be placed on a future agenda. But as of right now, Mayor, I know that you've run the meetings, or you and the city manager have set the agendas, and it is as your prerogative as a mayor to set the type of procedure now hearing. If the other council members want to discuss this, we could place this on a future agenda for discussion.
What I will do is the next meeting will be closed to the public, but I will put this item on the agenda for general discussion by the council. Okay?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I'm in agreement with that, but I see the concerns, but also if there's certain things that we could do to mitigate that, the danger, whatever, then we should try and look into that. But yeah, let's have a discussion. Actually have it on the agenda and discuss it.
Okay. Councilmember Kang, any comments?
Yes, I also agree with the Vice Mayor. We should have it on the next council meeting so we could talk about it, because it is a safety for everybody there. I know even our city hall employees are only working 4 hours because of COVID-19. So I think we should definitely talk about it next council meeting and get everybody's opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ramirez, could you put that on the next meeting, please?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Now we'll go on to, as I had already introduced, a public hearing. So, Mr. Ramirez, go ahead, continue, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. And we know that these are very hard times for a lot of our residents, especially when it comes to paying their subsistence utility bills. So, in just kind of scoping out, looking at different funding sources that are out there that are popping up, we would like to go after some CDBG funding that will, for about a dollar amount of about $91,000 and some change. And we would like to go after this funding so that way we can then help some of our residents to actually pay for some of their subsistence utility bills. So we noticed for the public hearing on September 10th, and CDBG requires that we encourage and have public hearings so that public participation as much as we can. And so that's why the public hearing, and again, we recommend that the council adopt this resolution so that we can move this CDBG grant application forward and be able to help several residents that are eligible. Again, they have to be eligible, and help them with some of the subsistence payment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. This is a public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to comment on this item? Anybody from the public? Hearing no one come forward, this item is now closed to the public. Council, any discussion?
This Councilmember Aguilar, you know, this is a great opportunity to go after this, these monies and try to have it available and support our community. So definitely go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Anybody other council member comments?
These funds also include an administrative fund. What is that exactly?
Yes, Councilwoman Batista, yes. So basically, general administration, we, as it relates to the time that we spend as staff, we can actually charge some of our time to the grant to administer the program. So the general administrative is for our reimbursement of our time. Yes, up to, not that we charge 17%, but we can go up to 17%.
Any other comments from council? Councilmember Kang?
No, I got nothing.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Negative, I'm good.
Okay, Councilmember Kang, any comments?
No.
Okay. And if not, then I'll entertain a motion at this time. Okay. I'll make the motion we adopt the resolution for the application for funding of the and execution of the grant government agreement and any amendment thereof thereto for the 2020 Community Development Block Grant Program Coronavirus Response Round 1 CDBG-T1 Annual Phase dated June 5th, 2020. I have a motion by the mayor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm not sure who got
I'll
this,
give it
but
to
I'll give this
Councilmember Aguilar. He could take it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, second by Councilmember Aguilar. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Batista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, citizen comments. This session's agenda allows the members of the public to address the city council on the item not otherwise on the agenda. Members of the public when recognized as mayor should come forward and identify themselves. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes in accordance with the state open meeting laws. No action will be taken by city council this evening. For items which are on the agenda of the evening, members of the public will be provided an opportunity to address the city council if the item is brought up for discussion. Does anybody from the public wish to make a citizen comment at this time?
I do.
Please identify yourself and make your comment, please.
Gabriel Salazar. A couple of comments. One, I want to say thank you to Councilmember Maria Batista Soto for advocating for continuing forward with the rate study, utility rate study. I know it's never a good time to talk about rates or increasing rates, but I appreciate her courage and bravery to push that that item forward, considering the city did spend, I think, $50,000 on the consultant, and kicking the can down the road not good for the city. So at one time, that's going to need to be addressed. The utility rates are going to have to be addressed. And then number two, my second comment is I know Merced County has a reopened Merced County program for businesses. I'm curious and interested to hear from the city council what each council member is doing to outreach to Livingston businesses to let them know of this great opportunity where they could get some grant funds to assist their businesses during these times of the pandemic. Again, I think the deadline for that program is September 20th, if memory serves you correct. So again, that's a great program, and I hope council members are doing something to encourage businesses and talk to them individually. And three, I just want to ask about Councilmember Bautista Soto about the UFW event, how we can participate, if we could get, I think, food to go, how that kind of works. And then that's all. And then congratulations on applying for the CDBG 91K. I think that's necessary for our residents here in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ramirez, do you wish to comment on the updates to the businesses?
Yes, Mr. Salazar, thank you for your question. So we're definitely every county has a little different approach, but we here in Merced County, we have a specific webpage that we've been communicating to our businesses and to those individuals who call and inquire. So it's called Reopen Merced County, and on there, not only do they have the guidelines associated with what businesses need to be open, but there's also resources and grant applications for those businesses who would like to apply. We also do that individually, and anybody that has any questions can certainly call City Hall, ask for myself, or they can email me. But I'm happy to report that the county is the lead on this, and we're basically piggybacking and we're using their platform to convey this information.
Just real quick, Mr. Mayor. I know. Can I respond to his question? I know Gabriel asked specifically what each council member is doing to promote this and communicate with businesses. Just for myself, to answer your question, luckily I have a good rapport with a lot of business owners, and I know from the beginning, just as an example, like sitting down with the city manager and actually picking up the phone and calling. I know we called in one location every barber shop and hair salon place in town. I don't know if Jose remembers that, but we actually, contacted each one and gave them resources and, tried to keep them updated with what's going on. So that has continued. I know city manager communicates well with them, and, we have an open line of communication in general. Like you mentioned, it is a good resource, and a lot of times that's, they don't know, a lot of people don't know about those resources, but obviously it could benefit a lot of people. So thank you for the question, Gabriel.
Yeah, it's Mayor Pro Tem. And just to add to that, at our last meeting, I asked a question to Supervisor Espinoza specifically about that program. So we got it out there to the city of Livingston, the citizens. So that's it on that part.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Ramirez.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. In addition to this, we're going to continue to work real closely with our businesses, separate and apart from any of the CARES program, because it's very important that each business has different needs at different levels with different needs, and so we're going to work real closely with other partners to make sure that we can help our businesses, because they have really different needs, and I can't take a cookie cutter approach to this. So thank you very much for bringing this to our attention, Mr. Salazar.
Okay, anybody else from the public?
Just one moment.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. Salazar, I really appreciate the support in regards to last month's meeting. I know that
really hard decisions that we have to make as leadership. But again, having that elephant in the room in regards to why things didn't move forward as they should have, I do really appreciate your support behind that. And as far as the VSW, you can come out and purchase your tickets. You can email me at the City of Livingston. Was it M. Baptista Soto at Livingston City? You can also come out to the VSW Hall on Thursday night, the 24th, for takeout dinner, or depending on how the organization looks that night, you can come in and we practice all the protocols that we should. It'll be September 24th between the hours of 5 and 7. We are actually serving a lasagna dinner, so if you have Livingston VSW, like them on Facebook because that's where you are, that's where you get the up-to-date information, or you can always contact me. So thank you again for your support in both last month's meeting in regards to the utility stakeholders and then for the VSW. And thank everybody that supports our veterans. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else from the public wish to make a citizen comment?
Yes. My name is Bernadette Rama.
Hey guys, quiet please.
Mayor. Hello?
Go ahead, please.
No, I'm off mute. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes,
I didn't get
we
your
can
name.
hear
Can you get your name?
Okay, thank you. My concerns are about the city's water system. I remember when the previous council passed the water rate increase, it was Gerpal and Rodrigo spearheaded the recall. Gerpal is avoiding raising the rates, yet around town within the Sikh community is saying that he doesn't get the mayor's seat until he will initiate another recall. Are you for the increase of the water rates, Gerpal?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yeah. Are you for the increase of the water rate?
I think that they have to be looked at, yes.
Okay. And then my second question would be for the city attorney about how much the previous recall did cost the city.
And that real quick, Mayor, members of the council, I don't have that information. I know that the recall happened prior to me being here, so I don't have that information off the top of my head.
Okay.
Can you find out an approximate estimate?
And I could definitely work with the city manager to see if there's any estimate that the city kept of how much that cost.
Okay, and then my third question is, if the city has just recently adopted a balanced budget plan, why are they financing the Olive property for Mr. Castillo's residence or property?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that here in a few minutes, so you can make your comment on that at that time, okay? And we will respond to you. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else from the public? If not, this item is now consent. Citizen comment is now closed. Moving on to consent agenda. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial will be enacted by one vote. Unless a separate action is requested by city manager or city council member, there will be no separate discussion of these items unless the members of the city council or city manager request that a specific item be removed. We did have a request to remove item number 7. This is a resolution of the item number. So at this time, I'll be asking to approve the consent on approve the warrant register dated September 10, 2020, approve the minutes of the meeting held July 21, 2020, approval of the minutes meeting held on August 18, 2020, Resolution amending the City of Livingston Conflict of Interest Codes and accepting the binding notice. Council, any discussion or entertain a motion at this time?
Can we just remind the public to mute their phones? If you're not
that's
making
a
a
good
comment.
idea. So public, please check your phones and mute them. So at this time, does anybody wish to make a motion on the consent calendar? Yeah, item number is being pulled separately.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus the item number 7.
I have a motion by Councilman Rivera. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Yes, I'll second.
Go ahead,
Second by
Mr.
Councilman Kane. I have a second by Councilman Kane. May I have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Batista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Item number 7, this is the resolution approving the $132 loan, $132,000 loan to council. To LLC, so regarding the property located near southwest corner of Olive Avenue, North Main Street. And to speak to it, legal, Mr. Sanchez, do you have anything to speak on this item?
I think there's a presentation on the item, or but I could give the kind of a quick just background on it, and then.
You know what? I'm sorry. Mr. Ramirez, can you give a presentation first?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, absolutely. So this particular item, property, for those of you who do not know where this property is at, we can certainly point to it for those here at the council chamber, that zoning map that we have in the back. But for those of you that are on the phone, this is a piece of property that the city acquired from Foster Farms many years ago, and it's located off of Olive Avenue and Livingston Cressy. It's a little over, just under 3 acres. That particular property was put for sale by the city. We, back in April or so, May, kind of that time frame, we had an interested buyer. That buyer did not follow through with all of the provisions on the purchase of the property. They offered $150,000 to purchase that property. Because it fell through, then we received another offer, and that offer came in higher than what the assessed value. We actually had the property assessed. An analysis done on the cost associated with the property, and we received an offer of $165,000. The council went ahead and approved the resolution for that for the sale of that property. Subsequently, the same buyer came back and mentioned to council about financing the property, that for 1 year, basically paying down about $32,000, financing $132,000 at 6.5% for 1 year, with an option to extend further into the future for that. The benefit to the city is that if we sell the property at that moment in time, and receive the $165,000, by the way, that property, the council directed those funds to be pushed into the future for any fire department use. We were only going to receive $165,000. So council basically said, you know what, that property is going to be idle for a while. We can make a little extra money. We'll finance this. And so there was direction given to staff. So we went ahead and executed everything, moved everything forward. The reason it's on the council agenda this evening is because the escrow company required a specific resolution that had more language to this very detail. But the property itself was already sold, and the financing was already approved, but we needed a resolution. That's why it's on tonight's council packet. And anything that you want to elaborate, Mr. Sanchez?
I think you did a great job just going over the facts. Again, the item before you is something that the council has already approved in the past as far as working on. As the city manager mentioned, the purchase and sale agreement has been executed. Also, there's an addendum to that talks about the financing that has been executed as well. Escrow would have closed already, but the escrow agent did ask for this resolution, specifically asking for the approval of the loan agreement. Now, I will tell you that the loan agreement itself will have security of a deed of trust on the property. There, if, for example, if the payment is not made, to move forward to try to foreclose on the property to recover the money. We always like to add a lot of that protection. The agreement itself, as the manager mentioned, it's financing $132,000 of the $165,000. There is a typo in the staff report. I apologize. Is that the payment of, I think it would end up being 33,000 would be made, not 32. The 132, 6.5 interest. I believe it does require the payment of the interest a little over $8,000. Also, when it closes, it is for 1 year. Then the 132,000 would be due. It does provide an option for the buyer, or for in this case, the person accepting with the loan, which is the buyer, to extend it for another 6 months. If they extend it for the 6 months, they would be paying, again, the 6.5 interest for that additional 6 months.
Mr. Ramirez, this is Mayor Pro Tem. I have a quick question.
Go ahead, please.
I know you said April, if I'm correct, you said April, May, but for the record, what year was that?
That was, if I remember correctly, Mayor Pro Tem, that was this year, 2020.
But I think it's 2019, if I'm correct.
Well, we started the initial process started in 2019, and the extra direction that was given to staff was in 2020.
Okay, yeah. So the question was when we started this. So you said April, May of 2019. Thank you.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Well,
Councilmember King?
Go ahead.
Yes, I actually want to tag along with Mayor Pro Tem. I remember we discussed about it 2019. I think it was over 14, 15 months ago. I understand at that point, the coronavirus pandemic hadn't hit us. So it was a decision council made, but now to having a balanced budget, I think it's going to be hard for the city to finance. And by us putting that much money into somebody else's hand, it's going to be hard for us to get a new fire station, because we have to wait until we recover that money. So that could technically be another 2 years. I think the fact that they were in escrow for 14 or 15 months, I think we need to relook at this. Because the time limit, 1 year would have been up 3-4 months ago. The fact that it was in escrow for 14 months, I think we need to bring it back to the table and discuss it again, because due to the fact that financially we're barely have enough to have a couple $100,000 in our reserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody on the council comment?
I can agree with Councilmember King in that we started this process way over a year ago, and many things have changed since then. And to bring this back now really puts a real eye-opening to what that decision was made back then. There are so many questions that I would have in regards to this whole transaction, because it is well over the time that Council Member King has pointed out. Property values have changed, and the gut feeling is that we didn't get what we should for this property, and to say that we're going to finance part of this loan when the buyer is not even putting down what the down payment should be in today's market. So again, we're cheating ourselves as a city, and I just can't sit here and say that, you know, why are we allowing the buyer to have such an awesome deal with this, because there's so many other questions in regards to this property that Mr. Hatch might be able to answer, because again, when we had these discussions, these were in closed sessions, so again, something we can't go out and seek more information in regards to that. So again, being business savvy in today's world, knowing that this money can best serve our city, knowing that we can get a better deal on this and not having to set a precedent that we're going to finance a buyer's loan, and when they're not even going to give us what today's market value is. So I do think that I can agree with Councilmember King that we should move this for further discussion. I don't know what our attorney's going to say with that in regards to the execution of the things that have happened. But again, we have to look at this and decide that is this in the best interest of the city, or are we allowing buyers to come into Livingston and say, hey, I'll make this deal with you. I want to buy this property from you, but we're going to let it sit, and I still have the option to extend it 18 months so that I can make more money off of it, or I can go out and get another loan and build some homes on it. And who's benefiting? Who really is benefiting from this? We're not. So in my conscience, I can't allow something such as this that seemed back then to be the right thing to do, because, again, we were looking at wanting more funds going into the general fund earmarked for a fire department. And that was a year and a half ago. So to look at that now, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense on what possibly could happen with this and the amount of money that we will not get at the current rate that this property might be going for, because it was appraised, what, more than 2 years ago? So again, having it reappraised would up that value, and again, force that buyer to pay what they should. And hearing from Mr. Ramirez saying that the first buyer opted out and then another buyer came, what's that to say about the open market? Did we give somebody else an opportunity to buy it, or someone just came into the office and said, hey, I'll pay you $15,000 more? Did it go out? Well, again, I really hope that the council, that we really look at this and decide what's in the best interest of Livingston, that Mr. Sanchez can let us know what legal parts need to happen.
And just quickly, Mayor, Council, we could definitely look at what your options are. Again, as I mentioned before, you do have a purchase and sale agreement that has been signed already. I know escrow is still open. Escrow hasn't closed. Usually there's rules of when you could terminate purchase and sale agreements while an escrow is open. But we have to look, we would have to review on what the options there would be, if that can be a council could direct. As far as the financing, I know in talking with the city manager, there may be options regarding the financing issues. We don't know. We could ask questions regarding the financing if the financing is the issue. But I do just want to remind the council there is a purchase and sale agreement that has been signed, that is executed, due to the approval of the council in the past. There is a resolution approving the sale, and we would look at what options there are to get out of that agreement, given that escrow hasn't closed. I haven't reviewed it that closely to see the termination section. I did see in the purchase and sale agreement there wasn't a lot of leeway to get out unless there was a breach. It hasn't been my I haven't been made apprised that they've breached the agreement in any way, but we could definitely look at it because that's what the council wants us to do.
Okay. Councilman Aguilar?
Yeah, so I know this was already approved by council, correct, Mr. Attorney?
That is correct. There's a resolution approving the sale of this property that the council adopted last year, I believe. Earlier this year, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. City Manager, there was also a resolution declaring this property surplus property pursuant to the Surplus Land Act because the property, because the law changed. So there was that movement. There was also direction provided to the city manager regarding the loan agreement, which had him sign, and I believe it was April of this year, signing an addendum. But he signed an addendum this year to the purchase and sale agreement for the financing as directed or as approved by the council. And again, this would have closed already, and we wouldn't have been here for this item if the escrow agent wouldn't have said, hey, can you please provide a resolution simply stating that there is a loan agreement, because we did insert even more things to the loan agreement. I wanted to put a deed of trust in order to secure the loan against the property as well.
So I understand. Thank you for that clarification. So basically, the council approved this and gave direction months ago, but now we're changing our mind or have additional concerns. I understand the concerns, but I just have to add is that, if we are going to have a stop to this, like what I want to know, what are the consequences legally? Obviously, that's something you need to look at and the legal aspect of it. But at the same time, I understand. I mean, it's almost like not fair for the buyer as well. I mean, maybe the council should have had more discussions or asked more questions or when all of this was approved. Since we did give direction in the past, and now we're saying that maybe we should look at it again or not sell. So it goes back to what I've said in the past, where sometimes Livingston has a bad reputation in regards to developers and people doing business in town, because sometimes we make them jump through hoops and stuff like that. So we have to mainstream and really, when something comes up, I know Maria, you mentioned that we should have had a better opportunity to ask questions, but it came to us multiple times, and we should have taken that opportunity to ask those questions and explore more. If Randy wasn't available during closed sessions, maybe we could have reached out, met with him. I mean, he's available to clarify that stuff. I do have the concern about the city carrying the loan. Could you explain that a little bit, city manager, in regards to how does that affect the budget? Does it show a negative balance of that amount, or how does that work, just to get more clarification?
So thank you, Councilmember Aguilar. So once again, council specifically, if you might recall to when this item actually first initially came up, we talked about that any properties that the city have, whether they be on the enterprise side or on the general fund side, if it's on the enterprise side and they're specific to a certain use and purpose, then any money that's generated in that respective area, the money has to stay there. So, example, if we were to sell a piece of property that was acquired because of water or sewer funds, then any money generated there, that funding would have to go back into those respective funds. These funds for this specific property was, again, a trade-off between property that Foster Farms vacated on the streets that belonged to the city, and then they turned around and gave this 2.7 something acres to the city. The council and legal gave some feedback at that time when it was determined that funding, the council wanted to put it towards the fire department. So it was designated. So it does, as it relates to balancing the budget, these funds are specific and were designated specifically by council. And of course, our finance director can elaborate a little further on this. But the impact that this has is that we don't have the money in hand right now. And if the fire department was to want to use these funds to do something towards the purchase of a building or something like that, you're talking about $165,000 that you don't have in hand. If the council wants the full $165,000 right now, then the option for taking the loan option would be negated, and then it would be up to the buyer then to take it or leave it at this point. And just for the record, the appraised value at that time, because I know that Councilman, the appraised value, we had an MIA appraisal done on it. The value was at $150,000, and the current buyer offered $165,000.
Mr. Ramirez, Mayor Pro Tem, I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so if the buyer were to buy this cash out, it would go, if I'm understanding you correctly, it would go to the fire fund. But since we're not getting a lump sum and we're taking it from the general funds, it's going to go back into the general fund. So that means the fire is going to lose out on that money. Am I understanding you correctly?
Not correct, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll allow Vanessa so that way, if you hear it a little different way, it'll probably be better.
Yes, good evening. This is Vanessa Portillo, Finance Director. At the moment, there isn't any exchange of funds required for this transaction. We are the owners of the land. So in essence, what the city will be doing is opening a note to the buyer in a future date, so an accounts receivable. In a future date, this person will be paying the money for the land, and at that point, that's when the exchange of the title will take place, at the time that the city will receive those monies. So there isn't perhaps a use of actual cash from the general fund in order to give to or loan to the buyer, because the city is the owner of the property. We are extending a receivable. We're opening a line of credit until the future when they're able to submit the money with interest. We're able to cancel that note, handle the title of the property to the buyer, and receive those funds and recognize them in our revenue.
So if I may, Mayor, just to add some more points, and that was a really good explanation, but I think that the bottom line is there's no money coming out. It's not a regular loan as far as you're lending somebody money out of your bank account. Let's say it is just money that you're going to be receiving, which you're giving as property. It's not money, and you're just waiting for the payment to come in later. Regarding the fire fund or the general fund, they're the same fund. It's a general fund, really. I think that the idea was to earmark the money, but it's not an enterprise fund or anything we're talking about. If I understand correctly, this property is owned by the general fund, meaning it's not restricted as far as for water or sewer as far as them owning it. And the council has said, hey, when we get that money in general fund, here's what we want to use it for. General fund can be used for whatever the council wants. There's no restrictions for general fund, and I think that that's how it works. As far as the thought of the, is somebody out the money or not? It's general fund. It's just the earmarking.
So that's just Councilmember Aguilar. So I think there's just a misunderstanding of what the way it's presented or stated that it's a loan. Like I think some people picture that we're taking that amount from the general fund and loaning it to the guy, but in reality, it's not. We're not going to go negative on our reserves. It's just the exchange for property. Basically, we're going to be receiving payments, and that's going to be adding to the current budget. And I think, thank you for explaining it better, because I think that's a misunderstanding now. So he has up to, according to this, or to the agreement that we approved before, he has up to 18 months, correct? And he'll be giving a down payment, is that correct?
And yes, he has, it's 1 year and with a potential 6-month extension. There is the agreement itself. There is interest that would also need to be paid at 6.5%. And then if the buyer chooses to extend the instead of the 1 year to the 18 months, the year and a half, they would have to be paying the 6.5% as well. One thing to note, aside from the $33,000 down payment, also the interest payment at the close of escrow for the purchase of the property borrowed shall repay 1 year interest in the amount of $8,580. So there's also that money that needs to be paid up front. The interest needs to be paid up front. And in the event that the loan is prepaid, let's say they decide to pay it the next day or whatnot, before what's called the maturity date, so before the year or the year and a half, the prepaid interest is not refunded. That the city ends up keeping.
So it's 1 year, but the city could choose to extend it to 18 months?
The buyer could choose to extend it.
Okay.
Councilman, any comments? Anything else further?
Yeah, this is Gagandip King again. Because
Go ahead.
what do you call this? I just want to know why was in escrow for 2 years? I mean, year and a half, whatever it was. How come the city staff didn't put a time limit on it? Because I think it's been over a year and a half. Markets have changed. I think it's up 20% right now. And I would really like to bring this in closed session next meeting and discuss it with council before we make any decision.
This is Diego Castillo, the buyer. If I could answer that question to refresh the memory,
Okay,
is that
Mr.
an option?
Castillo, just one moment, please. Not yet. I won't give you time. Not just yet, okay? Go ahead, Mr. Kane. Finish your comment, please.
No, that was it.
Okay. Councilman, is there any comments? If not,
Again,
I will.
I also,
So go ahead, please.
again, with Councilmember King, I'm looking at that too, that the time has lapsed. I mean, what was the limit of the sale? A year and a half. Market has changed. And just as moving forward, well, we didn't move forward on this, but I heard Councilman Aguilar saying, yeah, this is council, we did this. But again, we left that also to the responsibility of Mr. Ramirez to go out there and negotiate a deal that would get us the best for our money. So again, not knowing all of the information that we would needed to have made that decision, and allowing that to go out and have the purchase agreement done on our behalf, it just it makes me wonder if we went out there and in today's date and got the best that we could, because it has lasted a lot of time. So there are questions in regards to that property, and if Mr. Hatch could answer, the property out there what is it zoned for?
This is Randy Hatch. The property is zoned, as I recall, it's medium density residential. I think it's R2. And so that has a greater potential for development. And it was identified in our housing element as a possible multifamily site. Now, I do not have a good handle on land values, so I couldn't make any estimate on what today's value of that land is.
And again, when you say that, in today's value, back then was appraised at 150, and we're here today, and knowing that the property is zoned for certain housing makes that again, you did say yourself that is worth a lot more. Is that property available? Can it be rezoned to a different light industrial?
There is a process. It's relatively lengthy to do that because we would have to go to the Planning Commission and the City Council for a general plan change and then follow that up with the rezoning. Anything is possible with approval of Planning Commission and City Council, but it does take some time.
And again, we have allowed that time with that 18-month extension. So again, that makes me wary of the decisions that were made. So knowing that property can be rezoned for...
Little sticky breath.
Please turn off your mics, please. You're hearing...
And again, just knowing that possibility is out there,
I'm going to eat your leg.
Really makes that decision on our behalf a really poor one, because we are not getting the money that we should have, and as part of the city, knowing that we could get more money for that property, we went out there and changed that zoning itself and sold it at that price and got the best money possible for that.
So one other comment that's very important for everybody to know is that specific piece of property, there is no water, sewer, there's no street improvement. So that's property. You know,
I can't hear what this gentleman over talking. Please mute your mic.
The buyer actually.
Okay. Mr. Ramirez, can you stand by? Public, please. Whoever that's speaking, please turn off your mic. Okay, continue, Mr. Ramirez.
So I don't know if everybody heard me, but I'll repeat. Just so that everybody understands, that piece of property, there is no water, there is no city services out there. There's no road really, and the appraiser, I'm sure, reflected that in the cost. So in today's dollars, what that is, I wouldn't know. But one thing that the buyer did do was offer $15,000 above the appraised value, which is the minimum we can receive from an appraised value property. So I just wanted to add an info.
So just to make some comments, a legal comment. One of them, I think appraisals appraise the type of zoning it is. When the appraisal happens, it's not that, I don't say, and again, not having examined the appraisal closer, but all appraisals examine, when they give an estimate, they give an estimate depending on what zoning, location, and different variables. So that is accounted. Just because it's zoned residential doesn't mean it's worth more than what it was appraised. It would be appraised at the moment. It's appraised at the zoning, the features, etc. All that's taken into consideration. There was a question regarding rezoning. As Randy said, any property could be rezoned following the process, following the proper environmental. It's not an easy process. It's not just planning commission and city council, and it could be done. There are other requirements like environmental that needs to be done. That can be a costly endeavor if there hasn't been environmental as far as for the new zone. That can be expensive. That could be a EIR that needs to be done. So there is a process for that. I can answer more questions about the process.
Mr. Sanchez, can you stand by? We can't understand you.
You're supposed to brush your teeth.
Whoever's that whole
Anything back there, you're supposed to like, put it and brush my teeth.
Yeah.
That's what the dirty, that's the dirty stuff.
I know, that's why the water absorbed it and took it out.
Please mute your mics at home.
Why did you use your toothbrush?
Because our toothbrushes were upstairs.
Why did you go upstairs?
You didn't want to.
Hey, the guy with the
That's not very smart.
turn off your mic.
Oh shit.
Thank you very much.
Okay, continue, Ms. Sanchez.
And you're welcome, council.
That was well tendered.
So maybe if you want me just to restate it, Mayor, as far as the point, just real quickly, is that there has been comments regarding the property zoning and it being worth a lot more because it's residential. At the time of it, when it's appraised, an appraisal takes in account what the zoning is and the limitations of the property. So the $150,000 that it was appraised back then, I don't know if there's a change now, but it did take into account the type of zoning it is. That's not a new feature that is being added or kind of a new thing. Regarding the rezoning, there's a process, as Randy mentioned, for rezoning. Now, it's not just a planning commission and a council meeting. I think that there's a lot of details, and it's a lot more difficult. You have to take into account the environmental needed. That could be an EIR. So it's not a slam dunk. Anybody could want their property to be rezoned, but they would have to go through the proper steps, all the checklists, environmental, all the documents that are needed, general plan amendments, zoning code amendments, etc. So there is a laid out process for rezoning.
Hey, Mr. Sanchez, this is Guy again.
Well, since we are doing the general plan, Mr. Kerr, one moment, okay?
Yes.
Mr. Kerr, one moment. Councilman Batista still has the floor. Go ahead. I think you're on mute.
So thank you for the explanation, but just knowing that the potential is out there and that we have allowed an extension on that loan. So again, buying time and having the buyer possibly be earning equity on that property is just kind of a bad deal for us. And then going through the process is if they can get more money in changing the zoning, you know, because you said there's a process, and again, buying time with that part that we included with the 18 months for the buyer to exercise that right to extend the term of the loan. So
I understand the point.
Okay. Council, any other further comments?
Yeah, this is Gagandip again.
Go ahead, Councilman. Go ahead, please.
I agree with Maria. Even with adding to city attorney, I know it's hard to change the zoning, but since we are doing the general plan, this is something that we could easily do while we're doing the general plan. I think we could rezone into a different zone and get more money for the city. So I honestly think we should hold up on this.
Okay, thank you. I do believe the buyer's online. Is that true, Mr. Castillo?
Yes, that's correct.
Would you like to make a comment, sir?
Sure. This is Diego Castillo. I'm going to answer a couple questions that came up regarding the value. The
in my opinion, the value hasn't increased due to when we put this in escrow, we didn't have a pandemic, we didn't have the unemployment rate we have. This particular type of property is owned residential, and the reason we asked for additional time, and I brought up to council and everybody, is that we own another piece of property on the corner that's also zoned residential that we plan on developing into multifamily townhouse affordable housing products. So we're not rezoning it. We already have spent money on a survey and engineer. And then if you want to ask your public works, the reason the price got appraised for what it appraised is the reason the previous buyer backed out, and before we made an offer, this property was on the market for 6 months. So before we put an offer in it, it was already on the market, or you guys had it for sale for 6 months. And the reason the previous buyer backed out is because whoever develops this piece of property has to bring water, sewer, curb, gutter, and street and lighting up to this parcel, which is approximately 700 linear feet. So the cost of the improvements outweigh what we're paying for the property by 2 or 3 times. So the reason we asked for additional timing was, one, to ensure that we can make this project pencil due to the expenses and the improvements that are needed. And this particular corner has a total of 8 parcels, including this one, that are zoned residential. And we currently own 2 other parcels zoned residential, and 3 of the other 7 parcels have committed that they want to be included in this plan to develop multifamily townhouses. So as far as wanting to rezone, that's not the case. And then just to clarify, we're currently in escrow. We are active, and the reason, I don't know if any of you guys in the council or anybody that's called has developed land, but I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been a developer where I'm purchasing property like we are right now, and I've also been a developer where I've sold property. And it's very common for a piece of property to last 12, 18, 24 months to close escrow, because there's a lot of due diligence that goes behind before you actually close. Right now, we spent over $50,000 and all the surveys and all the contracts and all this. We're to the point where we're within 3 months to submit plans to the city for the residential multifamily. So that's why this process takes a while. And today's meeting, it wasn't to get the council approval whether we were going to buy it or not. That was done quite some time ago, before we did all these commitments and time and expenses. The commitment today was, does the council want to make an additional $8,500 to $12,000 while we get the permits to build this, or do we just close like we originally were approved, and how the contract currently stands?
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Councilman, any questions for the buyer?
No, just exactly. Like, we already approved this, and who's going to want to buy a barren field in the middle of nowhere that has no light, sewer? They're making commitments and project plans already. They already invested money, and this goes back to what I'm saying. We always end up doing something to developers or making them jump through hoops. Like, you guys are pushing away people wanting to invest in town. It's not his first project in the city, and you're basically pushing him away. He already mentioned how much he spent, and trying to develop housing that is needed in the city for our community and our residents. I understand the concern that maybe it's not valued it's valued higher and this and that, and the city is sort of holding the loan, but that was discussed prior to this meeting already, and we're just going in circles, and I don't understand why.
So the question is, do you guys want to make the additional $12,000 in interest while this gets approved so we can develop it? And if not, we're still entitled to close escrow. We'll pay you guys $165,000, and we'll get this escrow closed. We're still under escrow. We're still binded. And like I said, we have a lot of time and money and resource into this project. And like I said, when we made an offer, you guys had this property for sale for 6 months. The previous buyer, this property was actually marketed for 3 months with no activity. And anybody that drove down Main Street, I've been in Livingston for 11 years now. The other partner on this project has been born and raised in Livingston. We're bringing quality workhouse housing that is needed to the city, and we're committing to build it with our local team, which we have a track record of doing for over a decade here in town. We're managing it local, which we have over a decade of commitment here in Livingston, and we're also going to continue to own it. We're not going to be like some of these other developers that are coming to town, building something and flipping it or speccing it, or even worse, where they say they're going to come in, they get plans approved, and then they never move forward with the project. I can show you a track record. I've been investing in the city of Livingston since 2007 as a business owner. I've lived in the city in Livingston since 2010, and I can show you with the track record. I'm willing to sit down with anybody in the council or anybody who has questions where we have been actively investing in the city. And in my opinion, the property is worth less now because by the time we start developing this property, we're more than likely going to be in the middle of a recession if you ask the experts. But even so, we're still committed to this project because we're from Livingston and we are committed to this project. So if the recession does hit when we're building this, that's going to be another way of us to contribute to our local economy and produce housing and jobs that are needed. So the question is, do you guys want to make an extra $12,000 on these $165,000 on money that's going to be sitting in an account earning nothing? Or do you guys just want us to close it how it's approved and how we currently are in contract at the $165,000? Either way we can do it. It was just an option for us to contribute additional funds to the fire department fund. And that's what I've been contributing for, and that's what I've been discussing with everybody at the council. I've been open about this. My goal, we currently, and I can show you if anybody wants to sit down with us, we currently provide housing to over 70 families in Delhi and Livingston, and I can show you this over the last 10 years. And our goal is to bring at least another 75 units of quality workforce housing, and that's what we intend to do with this project. This project is not alone by itself. We wouldn't be buying it if it wasn't a bigger project. It does not make sense to do the improvements on 700 feet of street. You can ask your public works director or the engineer, ask him what his estimate is to curb, gutter, sidewalk, water, and sewer on 700 feet of sewer street. Add that to the purchase price, and that's really what we're paying for this project.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Councilman, any other comments? Open to the public? Okay, this item is now open to the public.
Did you see the public?
Make a comment? Yes. Go ahead.
No, we went on and on regarding whether you guys prefer or not, but thankfully they're turning and they will give you most of the information. Like you stated, this property doesn't develop. This system was fit like these two over here without sewer for so many years. Thankfully, the city got the funds for the sewer line down those lots. People have been trying to buy them forever, and then they don't do nothing. The one on 7th Street or 8th Street, there's another lot of them we're going to do with fourplex around the corner. They didn't do because there's no sewer. On these streets, the sewer line goes under the houses. It's made of what is it? Stone, right? Yeah. It's stone. It's been broken before. Right. Nobody wants to go out there. Then you got all the properties on the industrial side. If somebody wanted to do something, there was no sewer. So now, going back to this property, the gentleman wants to build apartments and develop all that corner, which is pretty old. What I was going to say is that you can do all the improvements, the sidewalks, as he said, it's 400 linear feet. That's pretty expensive. All you understand is that if the council plan said, voted to sell it, even if they hadn't, even $100,000 or whatever it was, $150,000, the cost of doing this project, if it's worth $1 million, $2 million, or $5 million, you better to have a property that's going to create property taxes. Everybody's going to benefit. As the way it is, it's been vacant for 15 years since we traded with Foster Farms. It's been a long time, so that's what they look for. It's like, it's going to be they're going to have to dig up all the dirt, all the improvements on the street. That's a lot of money. So, whoever wants to develop and bring business to and homes to Livingston, I really appreciate that. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public?
Yes, Jason Robb.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Roth.
Just a quick question. At time of purchase, how come this wasn't paid for in full, the plot of land? I mean, our land is kind of precious right now. We don't have a lot. So that's my question. If the owner or the buyer or the city could answer that, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I can answer that. The reason, like I said, the reason this, and again, I'm not sure if any of you are aware with the
Mr. Castillo, hold on. Mr. Ramirez?
Yes, two-part question. When we entered into contract with Mr. Castillo for the purchase of this property, first of all, you have to close escrow. So there was a escrow period, and then during that escrow period, then there was a communication to the council about the option of financing it. And so once that was put in motion, then we had to go through a process of bringing it to council, putting the resolution in place. That takes time. And we had to put together some legal talk, like our legal team had just mentioned, to make sure that, no money. Then you had the coronavirus situation, everything slowed down, it happened. The title dragged things out, and here we are. And so to answer your question, Mr. Ross, the money is really not moved from point A to point B until the actual closure.
Thank you.
Mr. Ross?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else from the public?
Yes, I have a question.
Please identify yourself.
Wapinder King. I just want to get some clarification. This discussion is not about if we want to sell to Mr. Castillo. Is this discussion about if we want to provide him with a loan? Because even if we decide to sell to him and not provide him a loan, we'll still be within contract, like the attorney keeps saying that we've already signed. And
Thank you, Mr. King. I was going to ask that very question.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Just for clarification, Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Ramirez, if we don't approve the funding, the buyer still has the option of just paying cash, correct?
So the escrow agent has the agreement already. There's a purchase and sale agreement out there already that's signed by both parties, and that's at the escrow agent. The only thing we're really doing here today is talking about the loan. Now, if the council wanted us to look at it, we could look at it, but escrow could close. And unless there's something triggered in an agreement that says, here's how you can terminate the agreement, which I'm not made aware of any breach that has happened, that agreement has already been signed. I think this is just the additional step in providing the actual loan, which the escrow agent is again asking for this resolution just to make the loan agreement official.
Okay. This is still open to the public. Does anybody else from the public wish to comment?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, please. Identify yourself.
Yes, Council Gabriel Salazar again. I guess number one, my first question is, what's the appraised value of? What's the appraised value?
Identify yourself.
Okay, this is Gabriel Salazar again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you, sir. My question is, what's the appraised value of the property now? And number two, how many units does the developer plan to build? And number three, I guess something to keep in mind is it's true, the developer has spent a lot of time and effort, energy on this, and if he's going to pay for the utilities, the streets, the lighting, the water connections, sewer connections, and I mean, it seems like a good deal for the city. Maybe at the time the city purchased it in May of last, or the city sold it in May of last year, it was low value. But like you said, like you all discussed, it was appraised at that time. So I think to go back and renege on this doesn't seem to be like the smartest thing. I think if the city benefits better from doing the loan deal, then go ahead and do that. I think that's probably what's going to help the city the best in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
Catherine.
Go ahead. Please state your name.
Catherine.
Catherine what?
Shell Rodriguez.
Thank you very much. Continue, please.
Yes, I actually have, I pulled up the staff report from the prior agreement in April, and I was looking down through the resolution, and the way that I'm reading the resolution, it says nothing about the city extending this loan. So am I correct in assuming that this thing about the city extending a loan is something that came up recently after the resolution approving the sale was passed?
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes, Catherine, thank you for your question. So that resolution that you're talking about is for the sale of the property. Subsequently, after that, there was a communication from the buyer that was transmitted to the council under closed session. Then under closed session, under real estate negotiations, direction was given to staff to then start working towards putting everything together for the loan.
Okay, so that was not reported out of closed session that you were going to work on the loan option. The loan option had been presented. It was just direction given to staff until this comes up today.
That is correct. It was not reported out. We got direction under property negotiations like we normally do. We've been working on it, working with the escrow agent, and now they're requesting this resolution, and therefore we're here with in front of the council to get approval of the resolution, and we have the loan agreements and the terms are in the resolution presented to council tonight.
So that's part of what I was, I'm sorry, this is still Catherine. I'm sorry, Catherine.
Okay. No, hold on. Go ahead. Anything else, Ms. Rodriguez?
Yeah, well, that's, I just wish that it had been reported out of closed session that you were considering something like this. This kind of looks like something coming out of the blue, like you're modifying the terms of the agreement after the original resolution was passed. I mean, because the original resolution said nothing about the city carrying the papers, and then things wait and wait and wait and wait, and then suddenly this comes up, and it's, people wonder, what happened between then and now? Why is this coming up now? So that's my 2 cents based on the document that I'm looking at right now.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
Can I answer that? This is Diego Castillo. Can I answer that for Catherine?
Go ahead.
So, Catherine, the reason we were asking for the seller carry, and again, it's not needed. We're just asking is we're trying to make this a larger project, and we're also it took again. If you want to talk to a developer, like I said, I've been on both sides of the fence, where I'm the one selling the piece of property like the city is doing now, and also where I'm acquiring. It takes time to get entitlements, to get surveys, to get engineers, to get costs. So the first buyer, like I said, put it under contract. He did a rough estimate. To him, it did not pencil to bring in 700 linear feet of improvements or water, sewer, curb gutter, and street to the property to make the parcel, to make this project work. So we currently already own a parcel on the corner of Olive and Main Street, North Main. So we're going to incorporate that into this project. So between this project and the project we already own, we're already committed to at least 45 units. The reason we asked for this extension, there's a neighbor that we're not related to, but there's a neighbor there that they showed interest of also doing, they own another 2 acres. They've showed interest of also joining our project and developing their 2 acres next to this project that we're buying and the one we currently own, and also doing a townhouse project. So the goal within this year that we asked is to try to get them to come on board so we can present, instead of doing, let's say, 45 or 50 units, we bring it back to the council, and the project's going to be 100, 150 units. And it'll be in phases, and it's townhouse quality units that we're going to own and manage here locally. So that's why it took a while. And like I said, and during this year and a half, we've already spent over $50,000 in surveying, engineering, and I mean, there's a lot of work that goes on when you develop a piece of property. And this property has been a dirt road since I've been a resident of Livingston, which has been, since 2010. So our project is to bring, we are already committed, regardless whether the neighbor comes to our project or not. We're going to develop the one we already own in the corner and this project. And by doing so, we're bringing 700 feet of street improvements to the city that the residents are going to be able to use instead of the dirt road that's been there at least since 2010 that I've been here.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Okay, anybody else from the public have any questions?
Yeah, my question didn't get answered.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, again, my question was, what's the appraised value right now?
We don't know. Yeah, Mr. Salazar, thank you again. So in terms of the appraised value, that would be very, very hard for staff to respond to, because we would have to pay another $3,500 to have an appraisal done on the property, and I wouldn't want to guess because I really don't know.
This is Diego again. Another question, to maybe ask your public works or your survey or engineering in the house, if they can just give a rough estimate on the experience that they have, what it costs to bring services to 700 linear feet of street. And once you figure that number and you add it to the purchase price of what we're paying, that's the real cost of this project. That's the real cost of this piece of land, which is why the first buyer backed out.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Castillo.
Can anybody answer that?
The public before? I'm sorry?
Well, I'll use an example that's currently out there right now. As council already knows, Green Zone LLC, which is some acreage over there by the river and 3rd Street, that specific property right now, in order to get water and sewer out there, the actual cost estimate for that was in excess of about $100,000. So if you add curbs, gutters, sidewalks in the streets, that number would easily triple. So without me knowing the actual going cost right now, since engineering is not in the house, that's the best number as an example that I can give.
So triple, is that?
Okay. Anybody else from the public?
Yes, if I may, this is Mr. Moran.
Go ahead, Mr. Moran.
Thank you. So I think it has been mentioned more than once, and I think it was good that you guys brought it up, that this had been previously discussed during closed session, and so that was another opportunity for the council members in attendance to have asked more questions about this particular deal or the additional request. So in addition, I'm assuming, and if you can tell me if I'm wrong, but at the moment, the only one that can cancel this deal would be the buyer, which it doesn't seem like that is the purpose of this discussion. But I think
negative.
Go ahead, Mr. Moran.
All right, thank you. So going back to when council had the opportunity and council provided direction to city staff, there was, I guess, a missed opportunity for additional questions, and it just seems probably not the perfect timing for having additional questions when there's already a contract that has been signed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public? Since nobody else is coming from the public, it is now closed to the public. Council, any further discussion? So, go ahead, please.
Again, Ms. Catherine Shaw Rodriguez, I hear what you had to say, and I also hear what Mr. Moran has to say. Again, going into council, and I that's on us, truly. But in closed session, when this was brought across, is the point that Ms. Rodriguez has made, is that this is not, as I recall, as best that I can recall, this part, some of the details in it are kind of different than what I remember, and that's my fault. But hearing it has progressed over the year and a half, and not being disclosed at that time to the public of what type, the 18-month term, the 6.5, all of that should have been brought out. Again, we gave that power to Mr. Ramirez to go out there and make a sales agreement with the buyer. And it just seems that it's coming back to us with all these details in place now. So again, my recollection of what occurred during our meeting, such as Mr. Moran has pointed out, that yes, it was a council decision, but not knowing all the details at the time, and now they're coming forth where all of our ears are now open and our eyes are open to say, hey, wait a minute, we're at a different time now. Perhaps we didn't know all these terms of the agreement because we allowed the negotiations to happen at a different time. So we're not in on those discussions, but they are here presented tonight to us, and I'm looking at it as it's some information that was not truly clear at the time of a year and a half ago. So again, things did change. Not being totally aware of all the details, knowing what questions to ask at that time, and being presented with it tonight. So again, thank you for pointing that out, Ms. Rodriguez and Mr. Moran. We do our due diligence to try to ask those questions. That's why we're that's why we're asking them tonight, to know that we are going to make the best decision in regards to how much money and how much effort that this is going to cost everybody, including Mr. Castillo. But what we want to accomplish here is to let our public know that, this is something that is kind of different, kind of bizarre, to hear that the city of Livingston is going to help finance a buyer for property that does not seem like we're going to get the full price for, and putting that money down. But again, if you hear from Mr. Castillo, he has put a very big, large amount of money into some projects. He's invested in other projects as well in Livingston. So I just want to take this opportunity to just let you know that some things just didn't seem as clear a year and a half ago. So again, thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, for pointing that out.
Hey, Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem. I got a question for Mr. Castillo, if I get a chance.
Of course. Go ahead, Mr. Pro Tem.
Sir, I mean, I know there's people that have issues with the 18th month thing. Are you willing to do the 12-month repayment, or would that be an issue for you?
No, that wouldn't be an issue. And actually, we're the reason. And again, I want to clarify that, because it seems like maybe Maria doesn't understand that what we're accomplishing here. We're actually paying more than what it appraised for a year ago. And then the only reason we bought this finance option was to give the city additional interest while we get it shovel ready. So we're not trying to take advantage of the city. If anything, we're trying to put an extra $27,000 in the city's pocket while we get the permit to develop it, or while we get the permit to make this project shovel ready. So yeah, and to answer your question, no, we could do it in 12 months. Actually, our goal is to have you guys a full set of plans within 90 days, and then it's going to be on your court. Whenever you guys approve it, then we'll move forward.
So you wouldn't have an issue changing that in this resolution, am I correct?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
our intention is to develop it. Like I said, the reason it took a little longer is because we're making a huge commitment to the city. I mean, I don't know if you guys understand, it costs a lot of money to do 700 linear feet of all improvements, and we're going to give it to the city with this project. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing with this project.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for explaining it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Council, any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to add a couple things. Yeah, I agree with not being reported out to the public. You have to be transparent, and the community needs to be involved in regards to not only that, but in things in general. So I think we missed an opportunity there to report back out, and we need to be more transparent as possible, especially considering what's going on now and the discussion we're having at the moment. Once again, this has been approved. This was approved in the past. Maria, I respect your comments and your suggestions and all of that, but you're making almost an insinuation that that staff somehow changed the information or that they provided to us, and I don't think that's fair for staff. As far as I actually recollect and recall, that information was clear and provided to us, and I think that at the moment it sounded like a good deal for the city because we were going to get extra funds for a future project, and that was why we had said, it was attractive. It felt like a project at the time. So I don't think it's fair for us to be saying that somehow staff withheld information, and we, like Mr. Moran said, if council members had questions or wanted to discuss it further, they need to speak up, and if it doesn't feel right, you have to advocate to bring it up to the public forum and discuss it up in open, or ask us questions. I know that being a council member is very difficult, and there's a lot of moving parts. But transparency and communication is very important, and asking questions and all of that is very important. But at the same time, we can't be saying stuff like that. Somehow information was withheld or it wasn't clear to us, because that's our job to make sure that if we don't understand it, we ask about it. I know there was a question by Mr. Roth that wasn't answered. Mr. Roth, can you ask that question again, just to make sure that your question was answered?
Yes. Why wasn't the money up front when they purchased the land?
Okay, Mr. Roth, I'll restate in a different form. When you open escrow, okay, escrow has to close, and at the time of escrow, when the escrow closes, that's when there's movement of funds. And what are those movement of funds? The movement of funds is whatever the buyer is supposed to be paying plus the funds that have to be transferred over to the realtor who participated as part of the transaction. And if there's any liens or anything that the buyer has, there's all these different moving parts. So to answer your question, sometimes the escrow can be a short period of time or it can be a long period of time. But if it's 30 days, then or 45 days, then it's at that moment in time when all the funds, if that's what was negotiated, gets paid for. However, if they can ask for escrow extensions, and over time, it could take longer. And so, specifically to your question, is they're not going to put $165,000 in the bank until the due diligence of the title company, the realtor, the buyer, and then of course the city. We have to put together protections in place to make sure that we're not left hanging if this person was to walk away. So hopefully that answered your question. If not, I'll restate it a third way.
No, that's fine. I kind of would like to hear from the buyer.
Sure.
Okay,
This is
look, you've already spoken. If you want to go ahead, just make it real quick, sir.
Yeah. Just real quick. Again, this is an escrow. So maybe people are confusing an escrow, like when you buy a house and it's 30, 45, 60 days. When you do land development, it's very typical that it takes an escrow. And like I said, I've been on both sides. I've been on the city side where I'm selling property, and I've been where I'm at as a buyer right now. It's very typical when you're doing a development, especially when you're going to bring improvements that, in this case, the buyer is responsible for paying. It takes time to get the surveyors, the architects, the engineer. It's a whole team of people behind that go out and do, and it costs money to do this. Similar like you would do an inspection for a house, except on a house it's a very small percentage versus land development. So to answer your question, it's not, if you talk to someone that's done land development, it's not out of the ordinary for an escrow to close in 12 to 16, 24 months, because that's how long it takes to get all the inspections. So for me as a buyer, I'm telling you right now, we're committed now to say that we're going to bring these improvements into the city. And like I said, it's a very large dollar amount, because if it wasn't, I mean, I'm sure the city would have already tackled it. So to answer your question, that it was just we had to make sure that this project was feasible for us to commit to say, yes, we're going to buy it, we're going to develop it, and we're not going to rezone it to industrial. Our intention, along with the other parcel we already own, is to bring quality workforce housing. So that's why, it took what it took, and it's a very normal procedure. Like if you talk to anybody that loves to purchase land development, 12 to 18 months is not out of the ordinary.
Great. Thank you. I just think the community needed to know the answers. I mean, the community is everything, and they're very concerned about what goes on in this community. So I think that's a very great answer. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And just to finish my thought real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Councilman Regular. So just to bring it back to what we're actually discussing today, was our Mayor Pro Tem asked the question about if he's okay with a 12-month term, and he said that he was. So I'm also in agreement with that. I think that'll be okay for us, considering that he's going to pay the interest, which will add additional funding for us, which considering that he's going to be investing 3 times what the property actually costs to bring utilities and put all that together for a development that's going to bring housing that we need and jobs. So that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you. Okay. I finally get to speak. You want to go ahead? Go ahead.
Just want to comment for Mr. Aguilar. Again, I'm not going to sit here and have you assume that I insinuated anything. We've been sitting here already for well over, I don't know, almost 2 hours discussing this item, and you've chimed in, Mayor Pro Tem has chimed in, and so has Councilmember King. So I wasn't the only one left to think that something else had occurred in closed session. So we all have our questions, and we're still sitting here trying to figure out the answers. So again, having it open to discussion, putting it out there to the public when it should have been, and everything in full transparency, we wouldn't be sitting here now. This item wouldn't have been pulled had we not had further questions. So again, I didn't insinuate anything. All of us on council here tonight have inquired about this whole transaction. So again, just on my own defense, I'm going to let you know that I wasn't enough on a loan. I did not sit there and just not pay attention. I paid attention. I heard what I heard, and so did everybody else.
Thank you. Okay. Now for my turn. Just 2 simple questions for the attorney. We have the option to make the loan or modify it any way the council and the buyer agree, correct?
No, that's correct.
So if we say we're not going to finance it, the buyer now has the opportunity to just pay off the value of the property, and escrow closes. So there's only two options: either finance or the buyer can pay it off. Correct?
That's what it looks like. And like I mentioned before, we would have to look at the purchase and sale agreement to see
that's
that.
what it looks like. I need a little clarification here, please.
I explained it earlier, Mayor, when I mentioned that we would have to look at the purchase and sale agreement. It doesn't seem as though anything anything amounting to a breach has happened by the buyer. There's a purchase and sale agreement that has been signed. That's a binding agreement that's sitting in escrow right now. I've seen the termination section. The termination section only has in case breach happens. I haven't heard of anything that would tell me that there's a breach. Again, I would have to do more further investigation to find out if that happened or not. And that's why I mentioned we would be looking at that section. Right now, as it sits here, the item before you is whether you want to make a loan. Well, let me rephrase that. Whether you want to wait on payment for a certain amount of time or not. That's the item before you.
Yeah. So the question I asked, and this is why before I called for the motion or anything else, is if a motion is made to wait on receiving the funds and earn the interest, whatever, and it gets canceled, what happens then? Does the buyer have the option to pay off? I need to know that because my decision is going to be based on if we say no, what option does the buyer have? Or what option? I need to know that before I make any vote.
If you say no on providing or waiting for payment, then the buyer currently has a purchase and sale agreement that has it for $165,000, and they've just said on the phone that they're willing to pay the $165,000. It may slow down. This is just that's what they said, that they're willing to pay it. It may slow down other things, but they're willing to pay the $165,000. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's what I heard.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Castillo, I have a question for you, sir.
Sure.
Okay. You understand what the attorney said, that if we do not provide the financing or wait for the payment, you have the option of just paying it off. You understand that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure you're clear on it. And Councilmember Kang, are you clear that if
yes,
we do not...
I got something to add to that real quick. So let's just say...
No. Wait a minute. I have the floor now, sir. I'm asking you. You understand that if we do not finance, the buyer has the option to pay. You understand that, correct?
Yes, I do. But can I say something real quick?
Well, hold on. No, wait a minute. I've been quiet for over an hour. It's my turn right now, please. I'll let you speak in a moment, but let me make sure, okay? Mayor Pro Tem, do you understand that if we do not extend, the buyer has the option to pay off the complete amount? You understand that, sir?
Mr. Mayor, I've heard that several times, and I get it. I clearly understand.
No, I just want to make sure you and everybody understands. Mr. Aguilar,
it's been said multiple times, so I do clearly understand.
I understand. I'm asking a question. Just make sure everybody understands. Mr. Aguilar, do you understand? And Councilman Batista, you understand. So if we deny, the buyer still has the option to pay, correct? Okay. All right, Councilmember Kang, quickly, please.
Yes, just to add to that, let's say if the buyer does decide to pay for it, how long would that escrow close? Would it be 30 days, 45 days? Because I don't want it to be another year. So can we get a time limit on when the escrow would close if we decide to go that route?
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes. The the escrow officer says, communicated to us that the only piece of information that they're waiting for is whether or not the city's going to pass the resolution or not. Either way, they would close by Friday.
It would close by Friday, so if it passes Friday, the deal's off?
So if today council decided not to do anything with this resolution, the buyer has the ability to close escrow on Friday and pay the $165,000 and it's over. If council decides to, put the property with these loan agreements, then basically the buyer would pay $33,000 down, and then we would basically charge him interest for $132 moving forward.
Yes, I understand all that part. I'm just saying, let's say if we decided not to loan the money and the buyer does go finance, so after Friday, if we don't get the money, what happens then?
Well, it's over. The property's sold, and we don't have a loan agreement, and all that basically dies.
Okay.
And the property is now his in the story.
This Mayor Pro Tem, it's probably a legal question for Mr. Sanchez.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
So if we do not sell, if this sale doesn't go through today, are we responsible for repaying Mr. Castillo for the surveys? He's saying he spent $50,000 up there. Is the city responsible now to repay that back to him?
So that, and thanks for the question. No, the only thing before you today is the resolution regarding the waiting for the payment. If the council doesn't pass this tonight, if the council has issues with the repayment, the only thing that's left is for him to pay the $165. I don't think that there's anything, or at least it doesn't appear as though there's anything contingent on this loan or any expenses related to the repayment plan. Let's call it that. I don't see exposure of having to repay anything that's been done. The sale of the property would still be going through, but just at the full price, the $165, and not at the payment schedule.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, council, any further discussion? Okay, does anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion approving the $132,000 loan to Castle Assets regarding the sale property located near southwest corner of Olive Avenue and North Main Street, as discussed, with a 12-month period without the extension.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second it.
I have a second by Mayor Pro Tem. Can I have roll call,
with
please?
with the 12 months instead of the 18,
yes, that
correct?
is correct. That was the original motion. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
There goes the fire station.
And just for the record, what we'll do is in the resolution, I believe it's the 7th recital that talks about the 18 months. It'll just end by, whereas the term of the loan will be for 1 year from the close of escrow. And we'll remove the rest of that recital if this passes.
Okay, Councilor, do you wish to make the amendment as stated by the attorney?
As stated by the attorney.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, do you wish to second as stated by the attorney?
I second it.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Aguilar, second by Mayor Pro Tem. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Batista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Summer?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, this is the next item. This is the Livingston 2040 General Plan Project Status Report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, we have Mr. Jim.
Please introduce and then go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, and thank you to Jim Harness is our lead consultant, and he's here today to provide a project status update. We continue to give you guys status updates as this goes along, and so what he's provided to the council is this first newsletter that basically is has been translated in all 3 different languages, so English, Spanish, and Punjabi. And Jim, take it away.
Now, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Jim Harnett, and I'm the project manager for the general plan update. I'm here tonight to give you an update, status report on where we are with the project. Monica and I are going to coordinate on the slides since I don't have a clicker, so I'll just say next every time. So next. So the primary objective for the presentation tonight is to provide a refresher on what the general plan is all about, describe what we've done already, and where we are right now and what the next steps are. Next. So general plan refresher, just what's the general plan about? Next. Every city and county in California is required to have a general plan, state law. There are certain elements, the minimum number of elements that are required, and you can put any optional elements that you choose to add to the plan. General plans are intended to be long-term documents that guide growth and development over 10 to 20-year period, and they address a broad range of topics. And like I said this before, the general plan is really about the only time a city or county gets to consider this full range of options at the same time and balance kind of your priorities between housing, land use, transportation, air quality, environmental quality, social justice, equity, a whole range of issues we'll be dealing with at the same time. Both develop policy and implementation programs. And intent of the plan, and we'll talk about the engagement that we're involved with so far and will continue to do. The intent is for you to understand, to the extent we can help, describe what the community's vision for its future is, and help you make informed decisions about that growth and change. Next. So, this is kind of a behind-the-scenes thing, but there's a part of the project we call project management that we do. This is to make the project run smoothly, and this is essentially communication between the consultant team and your staff. And to let you know, if we talk with your staff every other week, we have a regular call to check in. Every once in a while, we'll cancel the call if there's nothing to talk about, but we pretty much stuck to every other week calls. We prepare agendas for the calls and go through a list of a to-do list, and then we develop a follow-up list of what we decided and what the next steps are. Next. So this is our overall project schedule. The project's divided up into 8 phases. Next. So we finished, we're just at the end of the 3rd phase, just beginning the 4th phase of the project, and I'll talk about what we've done in each one of these, but and just to mention, we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but we are on schedule right now, and then expectation is to have the plan done by the summer of 2022. Next. So, while we are on schedule, there are some potential delays that presented by COVID-19. So far, we've been able to kind of deal with those in a variety of ways, but the real challenge for projects like this is a component of this visioning process and gauging what the community is interested in, having community workshops, open houses, and those typically are face-to-face get-togethers. And the COVID-19 restrictions and just the broad issues of health issues have made that a challenging consideration. And I know some of our other projects that we're working on, we've experimented with a variety of online engagement and communication tools, and a Zoom meeting. In fact, we'll talk about in a minute, we did a series of stakeholder interviews for this project, and some of them were Zoom interviews. Typically, when we don't have our dealing with COVID, we would have a series of in-person interviews. So we made some adjustments there. We're still, I think, we're beginning to understand that the value of face-to-face interaction and contact is pretty difficult to replace at some level. I mean, we can get close to that, but we're finding that it's a challenge. So that's a challenge that we're being prepared. And so, and we'll talk a minute about what our next steps are and how COVID might affect that. Next. So, I want to talk about the work we've completed. The project's been going on almost exactly 6 months. In fact, I think, next slide, I think our project kickoff meeting with the staff was March 15th. So next slide. So kickoff meeting. We met with about 20 of the city staff members and representatives from all of the consultant team members. And we had met for several hours, went through a long agenda, kind of created a dialogue and understanding of who was doing what. And we also took a little tour with the city manager and looked at some key places in the city. It was a really useful, I think, productive day that we spent. Next slide. One thing we did do as a part of that was to submit an information request to the city departments, and this is to help us tap into all of the information that we have right now, so that as we go forward, we understand studies that have been done, priorities that have been set, other plans that have been prepared, that we can digest, integrate to the extent that it makes sense, and use those as kind of a starting point for the project. Next. So we've done a number of things to kind of get the project characterized and start our communication efforts. And the first thing we did was develop a project logo. The idea here is to kind of brand the project so that all of the documents, and you'll see, I'll talk about it in a minute, there's a couple of documents that I left for you that we've prepared. Everything that we prepare for public distribution has the logo on it. So over time, you and the community will recognize the general plan related documents. So logo is a very important thing, we believe, in project that. Next. We created a project website. This is a key communication tool for the project. We'll maintain this throughout the project. Every document that we prepare is posted on the website. The website's available in English, Spanish, and Punjabi, and all of the documents that we've posted so far are translated into those 3 languages. Next. We had right here in this room General Plan Forum. It's kind of our kickoff meeting with you and the Planning Commission to kind of talk about the overall project and get into some details about what we were up to, what the schedule was, and we get feedback from you and others about expectations for the project. Next. We've conducted roughly 20 stakeholder interviews. There may have been a little bit more over, I think it was about June. We did these. The idea is this kind of helps the consultants as much as it helps you understand kind of what the issues are in the community. So we work with city staff to identify a range of community members, a broad range of interests in the community to kind of get a sense of what the issues were and what the expectations were for the project. It was a really useful discussion. We have a summary of stakeholder interviews posted on the website, and that, as I noted before, is translated to 3 languages. This, if you haven't seen it, it's an interesting kind of snapshot of a big range of views of what folks' priorities are, what their concerns and issues are, and so it kind of helps. It's just one way of kind of gauging what the where we should be headed with the project. Next slide. We developed a business card. There's a box over my back here on the back table. This is a handy little thing. If you're interested in taking some with you and give to your constituents or your neighbors, it just basically provides access to the website. It's an easy way of handing this out so people can get to the website, and that's kind of the communication central to the project. So we hand these out at community meetings. They're available at the City Hall, and it's just an easy little tool, communication tool. Next. We have completed newsletter number 1, and I've left copies for you. It's translated into Punjabi, Spanish, and English. This is posted on the website, and this is the first of 4 or 5 newsletters that we'll publish. That this one is basically to provide an overview of what the general plan is all about, a simple, digestible description. The next newsletters will be kind of drive people to the public meet to generate interest in the upcoming event. And so we're right now working on newsletter number 2, and this is in advance of the first open house, so they'll talk about it in a minute. Next. We have general plan audit form. This is something we're working with your staff on, primarily Randy. This is a tool that we use to get an initial direction from the staff on what's been working with the general plan, what's not been working, what needs to be revived. And so, in fact, Randy just got back to us this week with direction. This helps us kind of create a starting point for how we're going to update the general plan. What some things have already been accomplished that don't need to be there anymore. Some policies are not relevant anymore. Things have changed a lot since the last plan was done. So this gives us a starting point to begin to refine the field. Next slide. This is the audit form. We take every goal, policy, and program that's in your general plan, put it in this table, and ask a series of questions about that goal or policy or program. And this is our kind of one of our guides for future use. Okay, next slide. The first major document that we prepared is the existing conditions and trends workbook, and I've left copies for you tonight. It's posted on the website now just in English. It took quite a while to get the Spanish and Punjabi translations done. We have those, and within a matter of days, it should be posted on the website. We're having to take the translations and then reformat the document, and it just takes a little while to get that formatting up. We're hoping to have that done to hand out tonight, but we're within just a few days. But this is a snapshot of the city. Some of the information we've gathered there will find its way into the EIR later on to serve the dual purpose to provide background information, environmental setting for the environmental analysis. But this is addresses, 20 or 25 year topics about the city, and it gives you a really good understanding said, and we'll use this as a starting point for developing the vision and eventually the goals and policies. Next slide. And I mentioned before, we're working on newsletter number 2. It's essentially, that's newsletter number 1. So newsletter number 2 will talk about visioning and what we're going to do at the upcoming workshop. Next slide. We also have sent out a series of e-blasts. You may have seen these. We have, as the general fund project goes along, more people we contact with the stakeholders, other folks, other emails that city staff have given us already, and we start to develop a contact with. We send these e-blasts out periodically just to keep folks informed, let them know what's happening, what event is coming up next. Next slide. We work with the city to post similar kinds of information on social media, on Facebook and other social media. Next. And we've been preparing some update bulletins that go in utility bills. And these are prepared next in 3 different languages. So and I don't recall how many we sent out. It was 3, I think. But these, again, just keep people informed about what's going on and with the project. Next. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we've been doing to keep your constituents informed about what we're up to and how they can be involved in the project and how they can get information about the project. So where are we now? Next slide. We are in the process of planning the first open house to address issues and assets and the visioning process. This was originally scheduled for August. We decided to postpone it largely because of the COVID issue and because of it's kind of coinciding generally with the start of school, and just felt like the community wouldn't be focused on these issues. We now have set a target date of October 14th for this first workshop. The plan is to have it across the street from City Hall in the park. It'll be an open air event. We'll set up a series of large tents and have a series of stations that people can express their opinion, fill out notes and post them on different boards. We have an exercise called Postcards from the Future, where people can essentially write a message to somebody from they're in Livingston 20 years from now and describe what they hope the city is like, and then also make a picture on the side, on the opposite side. So we do exercises like that to get people thinking about what they like the future to be in Livingston, and we have a lot of survey questions about assets and issues and opportunities. These workstations or each of these stations be spaced out, socially distanced. We'll have them everything will be translated into English, Spanish, and Punjabi. There'll be some food served, food and water. We'll have hand sanitizer, masks, all the health-related aspects will be addressed. So we're in the process of planning that. We have the content basically together. And we're going forward. You'll start seeing announcements in the next week or 2. But we still have some reservations about whether or not this is going to be permissible under the county's health regulations. So it may be that we'll have to postpone it again. But right now, we're going forward with our plans for having this event on the 14th. Next. And these are just examples of some of the activities we do. We have a Mad Libs exercise, for example, where you can fill out words to fill in vision statements. It's actually very fun. We have activities for the kids as well. We have a whole Lego set that they can use to build a city. So we try to make it family friendly with both food and some kids activities. Next. So that's kind of where we're at. We're in the planning stages for the open house. The upcoming phases is the next. So we saw this table before, but we're back at it to talk about what the remaining things are. So we're in phase 4. We developed, after we go through this process of the open house and get feedback, we'll come back to you with a vision and guiding principles that you consider as being kind of the overarching guide for the remainder of the project. Once we complete that, then we develop some land use alternatives and policy alternatives. The consultant team will prepare an analysis of the implications, the pros and cons of those alternatives. We'll bring those back to the Planning Commission. We'll have actually a second workshop to talk about those, then bring them to the Planning Commission and then to you for direction. And at that point, at the end of the alternative stage, you'll provide us direction with a preferred land use alternative. That would be essentially a land use diagram that describes the future growth areas. And then based on that, we'll develop the general plan, the goals, the policies, and the programs, go through an AIR process, and then finally to adoption. And that, in also a brief nutshell, is where we are with the general plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? Council, any questions?
You have people at the.
Ms. Toll,
You have on the website and in your PowerPoint the interview process. Who was all involved in that? It does say there were farmers, there were community stakeholders. Do you have a list of interviews or Zoom?
Yeah, the list of the folks we interviewed is in that stakeholder interview report. It was property owners, developers, farmers, community, folks involved in the community, school district representative, Farm Bureau.
Anybody else off the top of your head? Just so that we can make a connection of who in our community is participating in a physical sense. I mean, you're giving me, a general population, but as for names,
I can give you names. So we had Mrs. Okui participate. We had the Sakotas participate. We had Mr. Roth participate. We had different business owners. I can't remember the exact business owners that participated. Who else? And then Mrs. Janine Ramos, who's the executive director for the Farm Bureau, was involved. I don't recall the other names right now, but we do have a list, though.
Yeah. We got Snail Lake.
Dr. Shao was on there as well.
I think she's good that name.
And I forgot her name. She was here when I was making the presentation before. Yes. Yeah. So it was a very in my opinion, having done a lot of stakeholder interviews for projects, general fund and other kind of projects. It was a really cross section. You can't talk to everybody, obviously. You have to get a cross section, and it felt pretty representative to me. We had a broad range of opinions.
I heard you mention a lot of our farming community, the Cuys, the Salvernets, the Farm Bureau. What is their feel on wanting to annex properties or anything outside of our limits?
Yeah, the Dallases were also contacted. The Abrahams were contacted. And some more names are coming to mind, but yeah, those are some.
Well, I can tell you my number one takeaway from the interview is that the biggest challenge of this project is going to be the growth issue that the city dealt with in the last general plan that was avoided by the courts. That still is often the minds of some folks, especially the ag. So we heard a lot about that, but there's also a lot of property owners in the city that are also interested in expanding and growing outreach. And that hasn't changed either since that last update. So I think the community and ultimately you as a council are going to hear exactly those arguments. Again, we're going to do our best to kind of parse through and develop some alternatives that represent a range of ideas and look at what the pros and cons of each one of those are and give you information and the community about what the implications of going one way or the other are. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge of the project.
Also in your book on page 65, in your last paragraph there, it speaks on our historic and cultural resources. I just want to see what we can do as city and as a council to protect these historic sites. Again, that's something that was pointed out here, but nothing necessarily that holds. But in Livingston, as we see as our foundation of starting Livingston, and to protect that, again, we have our historical museum, but we do have some other historical sites that's pointed out here that I'd like to see us move somehow to officially protect some of those sites here that we have in our town.
So, Council, other comments? Public, does anybody have any questions? Public, does anybody have any questions? If not, then the public portion is closed. Council, any further business? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.